Good evening, everyone. Believe we just had a bit of an issue with the audio a moment ago. We're back live now, and just to quickly go over what we were talking about in that brief beginning of the broadcast, we've just had an amazing announcement in the last week that Jake Maloney was left without a team when TTL eSports announced that they were closing the doors after 13 years. And the proverbial ink was barely dry on that announcement when Trans-Tasman Racing announced their own news that Maloney would be joining the team. So what it means is that we've got two guys fighting for the Drivers' Championship who previously were driving for two different teams, now driving for the same team. So with all that information to digest, let's go over the particulars of tonight's racing. It's the Townsville 200. We've got two 35-lap races and another top 10 shootout. My name's Stairs, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Michael Zalavari to the commentary box, filling in for Madbird tonight.
Yes, thank you, Stairs. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be back commentating for you guys again. And Townsville is one of my favourite circuits on the V8 calendar, and especially after the last weekend's racing that we saw in the real deal, I'm hoping we get the same level of action tonight, and it looks like we might be in for a show.
Absolutely. Probably the only thing that we can... that we won't be getting from tonight that we were getting on the weekend was the rain. That's something that can't be done in Automobilista, but I expect the action to be almost as good in every other way. Let's have a quick look at the points now going into the round. Jake Maloney leading the championship currently on 1,632 points from Kurt Stenberg. Brody Steen actually with a points penalty from the previous round. He has taken a bit of a hit. He was up over 1,400. That's come down to 1,385. More on that later. Colin Warwick in 4th place. Sean Allen in 5th place. Those two Race On Oz guys very, very strong when it comes to the teams championship. Corey Preston for JMSR in 6th place. Will Devonish, the highest placed War Race Engineering driver. Zach Baker for ZB Racing. And then we've got Ethan Warren and Adam Zeitinger rounding out the top 10 for Astro Altus eSports. And a quick look at our schedule tonight. As I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, we've got a race 1 of 35 laps and a race 2 of 35 laps with a shootout to determine the grid for the second race with the regular qualifying format for race number 1. Michael.
Yes. So the way that the second race is going to work is the Automobilista practice session will be used as the qualifying session. That will be used to determine the rank of the top 10 shootouts. So yes, 2 races tonight, equal length, which is a little interesting. I would have maybe liked to have seen some sort of difference, but I guess it follows the real life deal of having the 2 equal length race for this street circuit.
Absolutely, they do like to follow the real life Supercars Championship as much as they possibly can, so the sprints will follow the same format in a reduced form to the real life events. So you have a sprint race and a feature race, and then the events such as Melbourne, Adelaide and Townsville, among others, where the 2 races are the same length, they follow that same schedule. And then the endurance races are much, much longer. At the moment, slated to be 50%, but I do know from talking to the organisers that they are keen to run a full-length Bathurst 1000 if it's at all possible.
A full-length Bathurst on Automobilista would be a somewhat terrifying experience. That track's hard enough in short bursts. Imagine doing a full 1,000 Ks, a full 6 hours in the seat. That would be a bit of a challenge.
Absolutely, it would be. 500 kilometres would be a bit of a challenge, but they will be allowed to swap drivers for that. But enough of that for the time being. We've got a qualifying session about to get underway, and I'm just actually looking now at the number 53 of Colin Warwick. They're running the same camo Penrite livery that was run by the real-life Erebus team at Townsville. So a nice little touch there as the cars start heading out onto the racetrack.
Yeah, that's one of the things I do love to see about things in sim racing, the series that really pay homage to what's happening in the real world, in the real competition. So things like the camo liveries or doing throwback liveries as well. It's always, it's brilliant to see what you can recreate on a computer screen when viewing the real thing. And I think sim racing in leagues like Automobilista and in other places I've been involved in, it shows a great respect for the series that they follow, which is really important, I think.
It is incredibly important, and it's great to see actually the variety of liveries that we get in this championship. Some of them following real life liveries, some of them following the liveries of the sim teams that we see a lot in iRacing, for example, the Altus team,
Yes.
and Trans-Tasman Racing.
And even some following older tribute liveries. So, for example, the car sales livery on Nigel Marneef, and I think I saw a VIP Pet Foods livery as well somewhere through the field. So it's, yeah, brilliant to see as the cars come over to start their first flyers, the variety in homages to the real world and to other areas of sim racing in the liveries.
Exactly. Let's go on board for a lap with Thomas McMillan as we go around this very short 2.85 kilometre circuit for a lap of Townsville, and he's just gone through turn 2, the first proper overtaking opportunity, or the first real braking zone, where we saw Scott McLaughlin and David Reynolds come together in race 2 of the real life event. And then you've got this sort of very unstreet circuit like series of bends that aren't really, they're not the traditional right angle bends that you see on street circuits. Lots of curbs. That's certainly quite indicative of a street circuit, but a lot of corners, some of which are flat out but only just, and quite a fun section of the track. Then coming up to the turn 11 and 12 complex, kind of like the last sector of Adelaide in reverse there, as Thomas McMillan just clouts the wall there into turn 13. And all of a sudden, he's back on the start-finish straight, and that's a lap of Townsville. Didn't take very long, did it?
No, it's about a minute and 12 seconds in a real-life supercar, a minute and 11 by the looks of it at the seat of one of these Automobilista Supercars. In fact, Ethan Warren's put in a minute and 10-second lap, which is crazy quick. Must be using a lot of the curve through some of the back-end sections. While we're talking about qualifying, we'll make reference to the 3 timing splits. So the first split is, of course, from the start-finish line just to the entry to turn 3, so just past where Thomas McMillan now is now. The sector 2 timing beam ends right ahead of this chicane here, so right where we are now. Thomas McMillan's just triggered that as he's gone through, and then, of course, the last sector is this flowing section through turn 10, and then the pair of hairpins that bring you back onto the main straight as Thomas McMillan gets very unsettled through turn 10. That's one of those features of turn 10, is that you've got that big bump as the road goes across what is Boundary Street, one of the main roads in Townsville, sorry. And so the car gets really unsettled right when you want it to be all hooked up. And we will see quite 1 or 2 people make contact with our outside wall. I can guarantee it.
Well, Ethan Warren has been in a very rich vein of form lately. He took the Triple Crown in our last outing at Hidden Valley, took the win and pole position for the top 10 shootout, and that was when Jake Maloney actually missed out on the shootout after exiting out of the game. So unfortunately for old Jake, he didn't actually get to contest that top 10 shootout. He'll certainly be hoping that doesn't happen tonight. But that was our first glimpse of him tonight in the Trans-Tasman colours. Bit of an unusual sight, it has to be said, given that we're so used to seeing him in TTL eSports black and orange.
Yeah, it does feel a little odd seeing the 2 championship protagonists in the same colour scheme. I guess that's another thing that now reflects the real life with Fabian Coulthard and Scott McLaughlin in the box seat of the championship. But I think it's a very good pickup for Trans-Tasman Motorsports. As they always say, if you can't beat them, join them, right?
Well, yes,
or get them to join you.
And it is actually quite an interesting scenario that it gives, because we've had these 2 different cars that we're used to seeing battling over the championship. Now they're going to have to share setups and stuff like that, and what effect that will have on the championship will be very, very interesting indeed. Will they be allowed to team up, in fact, for the Enduros? Probably not if one of them's trying to catch the other one in the points.
They might do like what happened in, I think it was 2008 or 2009, where they had the two drivers in the same team actually split and almost swap with another team. I think it was Todd Kelly raced with Rick instead of with Garth Tander, who raced with, was it Mark Scaife at the time? So you basically had a car swap just to make sure that they didn't destroy each other's championship.
Exactly. Well, that's a very interesting point indeed. But of course, in sim racing, it doesn't really matter how much you destroy the car. It'll be absolutely fine 5 minutes later, or even 1 minute later. So that's why we see sometimes people going absolutely balls to the wall in qualifying with absolutely no regard for the fact that the race will be 5 minutes later.
It's a beautiful thing, sim racing, beautiful thing. Just quickly, something I've noticed is we're getting a lot of cars backing up in that final sector, looking to try and get some room for a one-lap dash. Now, we've got, I think, 21 cars in the server at this stage, so it means that on a track which is only about 3.5 kilometers, oh, sorry, not even that, 2.8 kilometers, there's not a lot of real estate. You're basically getting almost 100 meters to yourself.
It's similar in length to the last circuit that we visited, Hidden Valley, which seems like a shorter circuit than this. This one's got a lot of corners, but there's just not a lot of distance between them. I suppose that's why it feels like a longer circuit than it is.
Yeah, on the flip side, it's because you've got this compression of like the tight street section and then the flowing section in sector 2, it kind of creates this accordion of the field as well, which, as we see Jake Maloney coming into the last sector now, he's got traffic immediately ahead of him, and that's because of that accordion effect. All of a sudden the cars just all back up through that pair of hairpins. He's on a decent lap at the moment. Purple second sector might be a chance to take pole position as he comes across the line. Let's see his lap time. It is only just outside, 0.16 outside.
He wasn't that far away in the first sector, very, very quick in the middle sector, but perhaps just not quite quick enough. It was a green, it was personal best in the final sector, but clearly not faster than Ethan Warren through there. So he's got a bit of work to do. Wonder if that traffic was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's trying to find some track space. There goes Kurt Stenberg now in the same shot. This is very, very interesting indeed. Good little opportunity to see the difference in the wing mirrors for the two cars, with the yellow wing mirrors on Jake Maloney and orange on Kurt Stenberg.
And that's a nice little way to make sure that you keep an eye on which one's which. I know that the Penske guys in V8 Supercars do the same thing, as Jake Maloney takes a lot of curb through that section. And it's kind of like the Formula One scoop as well. So I think we've got a lot of cars now in the pits.
And only a minute and a half left in the session.
So you've got enough time if you go out of the pits now to get another lap in. Just though, you have to be pretty quick on that out lap. So for the guys out now, it's a great opportunity to get a lap in maybe a little bit of cleaner air if you've got the tyres underneath you. And it looks like Kurt Stenberg's the one who might be looking to head up the field in 6th place. He's got quite a bit of track to himself, ahead of himself. In fact, he's got the entire first sector to himself as he comes through turn 2 now.
He'll be happy with that. And it's well, he's got a bit of work to do, because he's got Nigel Marneef, who's having a good qualifying session, is about 1/4 of a tenth of a second up ahead of him in 5th place. Oh, a lot of curb there for Kurt Stenberg. Haven't seen any times come up on the screen there. 21 flat for the first sector, so that wasn't particularly quick. He's up on his PB though, so that should jump him up 1 or 2 positions. Actually, he's not that far off pole time, less than a tenth off Ethan Warren.
And that time at the moment will put him into 2nd place. So it's all important for Kurt Stenberg to hook up this last sector as he comes through turn 10, nicks the curb, turn 11, nicks the curb at turn 12, and into the final corner. Looks very smooth, very put together as he exits the final corner and comes across the main straight. Where is he going to finish up in this session with 1 second left? And he goes 3rd. So he lost a little bit of time in that last sector as well, similar to Jake Maloney. Neither of them getting close to Ethan Warren's last sector there.
Maloney did improve on that lap, though, so he got to within 0.07 of a second of what Ethan Warren did. Ethan's sitting in the pits. He's sitting pretty right now. He doesn't think anyone can beat his time. Kurt will get another opportunity to set a lap, and he is up on his PB by another 6.5 of a second if he has the fuel to finish this lap. A lot of curb there. Everyone else seems to be coming into the pit. Zach Baker's pretty happy with 4th at the moment. Sean Allen's in the garage in 5th. Thomas McMillan is about to finish a lap. Let's see what he can do, whether he improves on 6th place. And he doesn't. I was under the impression I was under the impression he wasn't actually allowed to qualify in the first race tonight because he was he was in the naughty books as Kurt Stenberg loops it out of turn number 11 and 12, I believe that is. So just to finish on my point there, Thomas McMillan, he got a 100-point penalty in two separate incidents from Hidden Valley, and the stewards did mention that he would be excluded from qualifying in race 1. So I wonder if he got the memo, if they remembered to tell him that.
I definitely saw it posted in the channel conversation that we had, well, in the Discord. So I definitely saw it, and if I saw it, then everyone else definitely saw it.
Here we go. Well, perhaps his times will be deleted and he'll be starting from the back. Nonetheless, he has qualified in 6th place. Whether or not he gets to keep that remains to be seen.
So just to take you through the order, as the cars go through the warm-up now, Ethan Warren took pole with a 10.201, just ahead of Jake Maloney with a 269, sorry. A lot better in that final sector for Ethan Warren's where he found that time. Kurt Stenberg in 3rd with 10.6, followed by Zach Baker on a 10.8. And I have just lost all of the data now, so I can't keep taking you through those lap times.
Well, that's the first few. We'll get another chance to go through them once the race starts in earnest. We're going to take a quick break now as we're in the warm-up session, and on the other side of that break, we will bring you all the action from race 1 here in Townsville. Don't go anywhere.
Our live coverage of the Automobilista Supercars Championship will be back shortly. For more information about the Automobilista Supercars Championship, including race results and official championship points, don't forget to visit the Automobilista Supercars Facebook and Instagram pages for all the latest news and results. To enhance your watching experience, you can follow all of the live timing for each race at rsmclanau.liveraces.com.
Welcome to the previous round recap brought to you by Apex. In race 1, a poor start from championship leader Jake Maloney saw him drop to 4th from the front row, while pole sitter Ethan Warren got the ideal start to get the whole shot into turn 1. Jake would fight back quickly though, taking Thomas McMillan on the second lap and caught up to 2nd place man Kurt Stenberg by the halfway point in the race. Kurt would not give up without a fight, going side by side for almost a whole lap. The arm wrestle ended with Maloney eventually the victor, as Kurt struggled to get the power down out of turn 1.
Nearly spun around. How did Kurt hold on to that?
Meanwhile, in 4th place, Colin Warwick was the cork in the bottle, having forgotten to put new tyres on after qualifying. He wasn't the only one, as Thomas McMillan crashed in the latter stages of the race, dealing with a similar issue. The battle behind Colin Warwick ended in tears for Brody Steen and Corey Preston at turn 1. Zach Baker gained 2 positions out of the incident and got another a lap later, with Colin Warwick going wide at turn 1. Ethan Warren avoided all of the carnage to win the race by 2 seconds over Jake Maloney and Kurt Stenberg. The sensation of the shootout was the anticlimactic finish when Jake Maloney dropped out of the server at the crucial moment, allowing Ethan Warren to take pole position. Ethan Warren had another good start for race 2, with Thomas McMillan slotting in behind him in 2nd and Kurt Stenberg 3rd, as Jake Maloney made up 5 spots in the opening lap and a half. The subject of controversy for the opening stanza of the race was the lap 4 incident involving Zach Baker, Sean Allen, Brody Steen and Will Devonish. By lap 6, championship leader Jake Maloney had caught his rival at the top of the points, Kurt Stenberg, and a brilliant repeat of their arm wrestle from race 1 was to follow. By the time the pit stop started, Maloney had caught and passed Thomas McMillan, but not without McMillan putting up one hell of a fight. Soon McMillan would come under pressure from Kurt Stenberg. After getting past McMillan, Stenberg was the first of the two to pit and managed to hold on to the position just as McMillan came in on the next lap.
Kurt Stenberg manages to hold on to that position.
What followed was one of the best battles we've seen in Automobilista Supercars over the final spot on the podium. The battle finally went in favour of Kurt Stenberg when Thomas looped it in the hairpin.
Of course, outbrakes himself. Thomas McMillan gets the switch back, loses the rear end, and he's gone all the way across the infield.
Once again, Ethan Warren was untouchable out front, taking victory by 5 seconds over Jake Maloney to claim the Darwin Triple Crown. Kurt Stenberg had a quiet end to the race after the fireworks with McMillan to complete his podium double for the night. Welcome back to Townsville, and we're about to go racing for 35 laps around Townsville. Just a quick point before we get into the racing action on the points penalties from previous rounds. Dating back to Phillip Island, we've got a few we forgot to mention, and that was 25-point penalties for Stephen Birchall, Michael Ford, Thomas McMillan, and another one for Thomas McMillan, actually, from Phillip Island. So those were for on-track incidents. We had 35 points for Scott Nolan in race 1 at the Perth Super Night, causing a collision with Kurt Stenberg and Colin Warwick. 15 points to Stephen Birchall in Winton race 2, lap 2, turn 5, causing a collision with Will Devonish. And then in the previous round, we had a huge number of incidents that were under review. Thomas McMillan was in the naughty books a few times. Some of them he wasn't penalised for, but he did get penalised for typing in text chat during the race. Zach Baker also got a penalty for that one. Brody Steen got 25 points, and we're about to go off on our warm-up lap. So we're going to go through the grid just quickly, and Ethan Warren, of course, your pole sitter, with two Trans-Tasman racing drivers in his mirrors. One of them we're not used to seeing in those colours. Still with the orange number on his car, though, to denote the championship leader. So Kurt Stenberg, what can he do about Jake Maloney? Pretty happy with third on the grid, I should say. Zach Baker, another strong qualifying from him, ahead of Sean Allen, who jumped up into 5th in the latter stages of that qualifying session. Thomas McMillan has got to keep his 6th place, so perhaps he'll be serving that qualifying exclusion some other day. Colin Warwick in 7th place. Nigel Munif in 8th, with Brody Steen and Corey Preston rounding out the top 10. Great job from Jinx, recently moved over as a full-time driver and no longer a wild card in this championship. David Nenadic starts out of 12th place behind him, with Will Devonish for War Race Engineering. Jay Borg out of 14th place. Aidan Schultz in the number 11 car there starts in 15th place, ahead of Stephen Birchall in the Monster Mustang car. Lewis Kugley, good to see him back in this series. Actually, it might be his first race. He did sign up, but has been in the live chat making bets with Madbird during some of our races. Brapp starts out of 18th. Good to see him back after a long hiatus. Termo in 19th place. Ozrob in 20th, and RSM Latino, I believe, is our wild card from the Super 2 category.
Brilliant. So we've got a 21 car grid for this 35 lap race. Again, make sure traffic congestion is probably going to become a factor later in the race, but firstly, they've got to make it through this tight turn 1 and 2 before heading around the rest of the 2.8 kilometer lap. The rear of the field looks like they're all set and we're ready to go racing.
Well, you can hear the lights. We're about to go racing here in Townsville, and the lights are go. Well, it was Zach Baker didn't move very quickly at all. Jake Maloney got a pretty good start there. Gets ahead of the pole sitter, Ethan Warren, and Kurt Stenberg has had an absolute mare. He's lost at least 4 spots already. Where is he? Mired down there in the field as Jake Maloney sweeps through into the lead in turn 2.
And it looks like everyone's gotten through turns 1 and 2 mostly safely. Oh, there's a little spin at the back. Sorry, it looked like it was the brat in the VIP Pet Foods car that spin around, but otherwise everyone else seems to have gotten through without too much problems.
Yeah, Kurt Stenberg lost 4 spots on the run down to turn 2, so he's now stuck up behind Thomas McMillan, who is exactly where he started. So he lost and gained positions if he's ahead of Kurt Stenberg, but he's not up 1 spot from where he started, if that makes any sense. But we're about to complete the first lap. Jake Maloney leads by 3 inches. I was going to say 0.3 of a second, but it's very, very short margin indeed. So they're broken away a little bit from Sean Allen, who had a pretty good start, up 2 spots from where he started.
Yeah, and other big moves and shakers through the field. Oh, Zach Baker gets a very big slide out of the last corner. We mentioned Kurt Stenberg dropping down 4 spots. It looks like Jade Ball's come up 4, as well as Stephen Birchall as they cross the line on the first lap. A big drop from Brody Steen as well, down 6 spots, down to 15th from his starting position of 9.
Bit of contact there between Thomas McMillan and Kurt Stenberg. We saw these guys fighting tooth and nail over the final spot on the podium in the Hidden Valley, but that looked like a fairly simple move with a little bit of contact in there, but nothing too serious. Up the inside at turn 2, and Kurt Stenberg is up to 6th place.
There's a little bit of a gap now between Stenberg and the next group of drivers, so it's still a lot of work for Stenberg to do if he's going to put pressure on Jake Maloney for this championship.
Absolutely, with Jake Maloney jumping into the lead of the race, and Ethan Warren now seemingly, he's down to a second, so that he's eking out that margin. Very, very differing fortunes for the 2 newly Trans-Tasman racing drivers. We haven't seen Emily Jones do more than a few laps since the opening round in Adelaide, where she won and then backed that up with a podium. Then we didn't see her for a little while. She came back and has had a few DNFs, and it doesn't look like she's here tonight.
No, it's quite unfortunate, but at least Trans-Tasman have a full complement of drivers, as Jake Maloney sets the fastest lap of the race on lap 2, the first flying lap of the race, so that makes pretty well sense. A 10.6, so very close to his qualifying time already, right at the very beginning of the race.
Seeing Corey Preston going side by side with Nigel Marneef, those 2 disputing 8th and 9th place, as Corey Preston gets up the inside there through the middle sector, and Nigel Marneef actually having a bit of a problem on the exit there. I wonder if he just couldn't get the power down, missed a gear or something like that. All of a sudden coming under a fair bit of pressure from Jinx as they all throw the weight of the cars through there, and that's a bit of breathing space for Corey Preston. He's now made up 2 positions from where he started.
Yeah, and Nigel Marneef is going to be in a little bit of trouble here because he's had to take a shallow line into that chicane, and as he's come out the exit of turn 10, it leaves who's that, Jinx, an opportunity to have a look, but doesn't quite get it done. He's gone a little wide there, so now Jinx is right on his tail and look for a move up the inside here into the final corner. Is he going to get it done? Or not quite, just didn't quite have the space to make that move. But that's one of the things, if you get a little out of shape in that sector 2, that turn 5, 6, 7 region, it really shallows up your entry to the chicane, which means that you lose a lot of time on the exit of turn 10.
Jinx has gone up the inside of Nigel Marneef at turn 2, so it seemed like a fairly simple move. Nigel Marneef struggling for pace in the early stages of this race, so where he was having a pretty good battle with Corey Preston a few moments ago, now he's coming under a lot of pressure from the midfield.
Exactly right. Bring us back towards the head of the field, and it looks like Kurt Stenberg's gained up that little bit of gap and is right on the tail of Colin Warwick for 5th place already.
Oh, good spot. That's a tasty little battle. These 2 series admins and very good friends, of course, in real life. Colin Warwick has had a great start to this race. He's moved up 2 spots, and there's a fair old gap ahead of. I was going to say fair old gap. 2.2 seconds isn't that big a gap.
Warwick's on right.
He's let him straight through. Kurt Stenberg up to 5th.
Free kick there for Stenberg, nice and easy, but it has...
He's going to come back.
Yeah, the drag race down the main straight. Now, Colin's got the inside line here, so Stenberg might have to just roll out of it, just be a bit safe. Not quite, they're still going side by side into turn 2, and Stenberg does take the position in the end.
Yeah, Colin,
that's another... Go ahead.
Colin got a little bit loose through turn 1. I wonder if he had just sort of let out the throttle. He wasn't 100% sure where Kurt was, didn't want to hit him, and probably could have stayed flat out through there. I reckon he lifted and had a little bit of a wiggle as a result of that, but that's just my guess. may not be right.
And lifting at that point completely changes the balance of the car. It would move the balance much further forward, which is not what you want when you're heading through that section. You want to make sure that rear is planted. And we saw in the Super 2 race on the weekend, one of the cars actually lose a rear wing through there and end up backwards into the wall, which just goes to show how much these cars, even though they are heavy beasts of the thing, rely on aerodynamics to keep the rear end planted as they head through the fast corners. We're on lap 6 now of 35, and it looks like Ethan Warren's just holding onto the tail of Jake Maloney, and then the battle for third is again just out of reach between Sean Allen and Zach Baker.
Well, these two teams we've seen battling quite a lot. We've seen a lot of Zach Baker and Sean Allen. We've seen a lot of Brody Steen and David Nenadic. The Race on Oz and the Zach Baker Racing Team cars are featured quite prominently. They're two of the strongest driver pairings, with a lot of the other teams represented by only one driver, up until recently at least, for Trans-Tasman Racing, as Emily Jones has missed quite a lot of rounds. So it's good to see those two guys, David Nedadic and Brody Steen, their teammates, not doing as well tonight. I'm actually trying to see Brody Steen 14th. He's never usually that low. He has won a few races this championship.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, he won the round at Barbagallo that I commentated on. So
that's right.
Yeah, a bit weird to see him that far down. He's wrapped in a battle of right at the end of the top 10, which goes from, I think it's 10th to 16th in this battle, featuring Marnie struggling. Oh no, Marnie's ahead of this battle. Let me just find where I am.
Ethan Warren's just closed a few tenths on Ethan Warren on Jake Maloney the previous lap. That was, by Jake Maloney's standards, a fairly scrappy lap from him. He's been doing sort of mid-110s, and last lap around was a 1 minute 11, which is still comparable, in fact, faster than most of the top 10, but it wasn't faster than Ethan Warren on that previous lap.
Yeah, it looks like the battle is sort of ebbing and flowing as the race sort of settles in. Did Ethan Warren just tap the wall there?
I think he did. Lost his left front mirror as opposed to his left rear mirror. That's a fun feature of that Mustang that was modelled specifically for this series, is that the mirrors, you can knock them off. And he's done just that. It means he's only got one left for us for identification purposes. But there aren't too many other Astro Altus eSports cars in the same picture at the moment.
And I did say someone would tag that wall, so I've already been proven right, so that makes me very happy.
Now, it doesn't mean Jake Maloney hasn't tapped that wall, because the ZB Commodore doesn't have mirrors that can come off, if I'm not mistaken. And another brush with the wall for Ethan Warren there, coming through there. So very, very close to the limit, but it bodes well for us because it means we've got a battle for the lead that is alive and well.
Yeah, and does go to show that to get the maximum pace out of a street circuit, you have to get to the absolute limits, which is one of the reasons why I really, really love street circuits. And I think this Townsville circuit is one that invites you to push to those absolute limits, especially that turn 10 where Ethan Warren tagged the wall again.
Well, he's
playing with fire there.
He's finding gains there. He actually lost a tenth on the previous lap because Jake Maloney re-engaged and set a 10.7, but Warren was only half a tenth, 4 hundredths or so behind. I reckon he's closed in a few car lengths on this lap again. We'll wait and see as they come across the line. There's a 5-second delay in our live timing before it comes through. That was a good lap from Jake Maloney, 10.6. And no, Ethan Warren did lose a tiny bit of ground there. Not much, only half a tenth of a second, but that's all it takes as Jake Maloney ekes this gap back out.
And that's one of the things about street circuits as well. It's these fine margins. So whatever Ethan Warren was gaining in qualifying through that last sector, he's beginning to lose it. Maybe not a lot, but just a little bit. And that a little bit per lap builds up. And especially with a street circuit where the margins are so fine, you want to make sure to try and be as consistent as possible. And by the looks of it, they're about the same time so far for this lap as well. Can't really find a sector time at the moment, but it doesn't look like the gap's gotten shorter or bigger at this stage.
Yeah, Ethan, I think, found a little bit of time through the first sector, but then Jake Maloney was marginally quicker in the middle sector. So it once again is going to come down to this final sector. I saw that Ethan didn't actually brush the wall there through turn 10 like he did on the previous 2 occasions. And that was a 110.8 for Ethan Warren, and comparatively half a tenth quicker than Jake Maloney on that lap. So he has found a little bit of time on Jake on this particular lap. Back under a second, but only by a whisker.
And it is just those fine margins. They've actually pulled out a solid 10 seconds over the battle for third between Sean Allen and Zach Baker, who I think are actually slowing each other up in their battling. The gap between them is less than half a second at the moment.
Look at the backer of shot there. Here comes Kurt.
Yeah, exactly right. That was the next thing I was going to mention. Kurt Stenberg is just stalking away in the background, just waiting for an opportunity to get on the back of these battlers as they use all of that concrete apron there at turn 6, heading into this chicane.
We just had a stonking middle sector from Jake Maloney, 16.4, and that is a purple sector, and that is after being marginally quicker in the first sector. So that gap at the lead was out to about 1.4 seconds. It's ebbing and flowing ever so much. Bit of a moment there for Sean Allen in the traction zone coming out of turns 8 and 9, and this is all playing into the hands of Kurt Stenberg as he gains back ground sector by sector on these two, who are probably distracting each other a bit, as you said, maybe slowing each other down. Sean Allen's looking in his mirrors, Zach Baker eager to get past, and all the time Kurt Stenberg comes in. Here's a bit of a look, a little bit of a look there for Zach Baker. Not really a fully committed move, but a distractionary tactic from the ZB racing driver.
He's doing what Craig Lowndes always used to do. Just duck out into the mirrors to say, hey, this is where I am. Here I am. And he's going to do that probably for the rest of this stint. I made mention that they might be slowing each other down, but they're actually running close to best lap speed for the two of them for this race. Sean Allen was only a tenth outside of his best, and Zach Baker only 2/10. So they're keeping the pace up. It's just they don't have the absolute pace that Jake Maloney and Ethan Warren have at the head of the field.
That's it. I just want to bring your attention to a fantastic scrap going on down in 7th, 8th and 9th place between Thomas McMillan, Corey Preston and Jinx. Jinx doing very, very well at the moment, and playing with the big boys at the moment and proving that he has got the speed to do so. So Thomas McMillan, who sort of gone backwards since the early stages of this race. Corey Preston is a man on the charge, and he's been all over the back of Thomas McMillan with a little bit of Morse code to boot there for the previous few laps. That's a great battle.
Yeah, I always love seeing compound battles where it's one person in the middle of 2 or 3 people trying to get through. Great thing about this circuit is that there's a lot of give and take, so you can be fast in some areas and then compromise you on the next. As Corey Preston just has a little bit of a look as Thomas McMillan goes a little wide. Corey Preston's got the inside line here for the next corner, but he has to slot back in as the track kind of bends back towards him. But yeah, the gaps here are pretty well non-existent.
Oh, I thought he was going to hit the wall.
If that was the real circuit, he would have been fully in the tyre barrier.
Here we
Corey
go.
Preston's on the inside of turn 5. He's going to be able to hold it around the outside. Not quite, but that's over under. But he's on the outside again. Can Thomas McMillan hold them as they go through the chicane? They touch. It's going over the curbs, and they've managed to make it through. Now Corey Preston's got the move made. Jinx could go up the inside as well as they all head into turn 10.
Late move, and then he smashes into Corey Preston. That was a bit rude. And Corey Preston had that position legitimately. Now he could lose both positions. I think Thomas McMillan would be well placed to try and redress that position.
But he can't now. He can't because Jinx has made the move on Corey Preston. So if he has to redress, he's got to redress both. Oh, wow, what a passage.
And Nigel Munif's coming up behind them too, so he doesn't want to wait too long to do that. I get the feeling he's not going to do it now. And is that Jinx or Preston's flashing the lights there? Either way, one of them's angry as Jinx goes up the inside of Thomas McMillan now at turn 2 and gets through. Well, now if you're Thomas McMillan, you might as well redress that position because I can pretty safely say that he's going to get the he's going to get the ire of the stewards if that is an incident that gets reported.
Keeping in mind that he's also just very recently had the ire of the stewards as well. Not something that you want to be too involved in if you've just taken, what was it, 100-point penalty in the last round?
Over 2 separate incidents, and then that was
exactly
separate
right
to the one that he got the qualifying exclusion for that wasn't enforced. So anyway, leaving all that aside, I've got to pay props to Jinx, ever the opportunist who took full advantage of that situation to gain 2 positions. He's going to have his work cut out trying to keep them as Thomas tries the old bump and run to no effect. So Jinx is up 4 spots from where he started, and he's starting to struggle with those rear tyres. They're all starting to struggle with those rear tyres at the moment.
There's actually a deceptive amount of camber on some of these corners. You wouldn't think for a street circuit that there would be a lot of camber, but it's especially, I did a few practice laps around here very badly before we started. And as Corey Preston dives towards the inside, has he managed to make that move stick? Not quite. Yeah, there's actually, especially on that last corner, because the road kind of bows out for drainage as it's the main street in Townsville, it's very difficult to get the power down there without kicking up a lot of dust in the wheels. So yeah, surprising amount of camber, which really does make some of these corners quite difficult as they roll through turns 5 and 6, again using all that concrete apron on the outside. This battle's muted itself a little bit, but Nigel Marneef in the background is looking very threatening now.
Yeah, they're just setting up for round 2, I would say. A difference between Jake Maloney and Ethan Warren in lap time was they went across the line the previous occasion 0.006 of a second. That is remarkable consistency on their last lap. In fact, on the last lap, since I said that, that's been now superseded as Ethan Warren has lost 2 or 3 tenths to Maloney on that lap, but that came after Maloney lost 3 tenths to Ethan Warren shortly before that. So, as you say, very much ebbing and flowing. No one seemingly with the advantage. We've got someone in the pits.
We've got the first one.
Nigel Marneef. And is there someone else? Looks like...
Yes, it's the Stephen Birchall Mustang in the pits as well. Oh, and we've got a spin at the last corner, 16th place, David Nenergic. He's gone around. Oh, no. Looks like he might have been heading into the pits or got tagged on his way into the pits.
Catching a replay.
I'm just going to try and... Yeah, we'll try and bring it up on replay.
Oh, yeah, no, just... Oh, that was a strange. Just like a late decision to go into the pits and spun it up. And couldn't find a gear for a few moments.
A bit unlucky there because he was in a not too bad position. I think he was just at the back end of that top 10. So definitely not what you want heading into the pits. And it looks like the first of the pit callers, Nigel Marneef's actually gone a lap down. Yes, the 2 leaders have just gone past him as they head into turn 2 on this, the 16th lap for the leaders.
Didn't see where it happened, but Lewis Kugali, not actually 100% sure how to spell your name if you're watching.
I'm just doing... Oh, there's a spin on the main straight. 10th position, 9th position, Jinx. He's just been taken for a bit of a ride between Corey Preston and Thomas McMillan. They were 3 wide in that last corner, and it looks like Jinx was the one who lost out.
Let's catch a replay of that one, because that was a very hotly contested battle, and he did get a bit of a helping hand from Thomas McMillan, and then lit up the rears possibly in frustration after that. He won't be a particularly happy man right now. We probably chalk that one up to experience, but...
And it's still going on between McMillan and Corey Preston as they head over the bridge into turn 5. They're side by side through turn 5. Preston is really wide. He's on the grass. He's going to make it to the apex of 6. He does.
We've had a change of position for the lead. Sorry to interrupt you there, but Ethan Warren has got past Jake Maloney.
Oh, it's all happening.
That is a remarkable incident. So we're just catching the tail end of that in the replay. So it's happened somewhere in the final sector. They've both gone around. They haven't pitted. We're going to go back and try and see what caused that. Was there a mistake from one of them? Because the gap was about 1 second. And it was a mistake from Jake Maloney. In fact, getting caught up behind some lap traffic. And that was down at the hairpin. Sorry, not the hairpin, the chicane. And... Ethan Warren, with all the momentum, was able to affect the overtake. So, remarkable moment in this motor race.
Wow, in the last, 20 seconds, we've had a spin, a car on the wall. Do we have a car on the wall? I can't even remember anymore. This is just like the real deal. It's brilliant. I love it.
And as you say, if you come into the pits, you end up a lap down, which is a bit like the real deal as well, as we saw with Scott McLaughlin on Sunday. So, Nigel Marneef is the first man who made his pit stop, who was a lap down. The leaders have gone around again, so he's going to remain a lap down. Sean Allen still holds down 3rd place ahead of Zach Baker. Kurt Stenberg not closing that battle down as quickly as I thought he might with those 2 battling each other. So I guess they still are on a fairly good pace, and this lap traffic really, really starting to make its effect shown.
We've also just had... who was that? Thomas McMillan come through the pits as well. So he's now dropped a lap.
So that's lap 18 for him. Very, very quickly. Since the... Sorry, go on.
Sorry, okay, lap traffic getting out of the way very smartly for the lead battle coming through. I think that was RSM Latino who moved out of the way. There is Jake Maloney gets it up on 2 wheels through turn 6. That was wild.
Well, that was the same corner where he came across Brap, I think it was, in the yellow VIP Pet Foods Commodore. So it's not his favourite corner tonight, it has to be said.
No. And we've got Zach Baker now with Kurt Stenberg behind. It looks like coming through the lap traffic. Kurt Stenberg, very well done by the Monster Mustang there to get out of the way to let Stenberg through. Whereabouts has...
Pitted.
We've lost someone. Oh, he's pitted?
Sean
Okay,
Allen, Sean Allen, who was fighting Kurt Stenberg, made a great decision, I think, to make his pit stop when he did, because everyone else is dealing with traffic. We try and see where Sean Allen is. Looks like he has a bit of...
He's just going through turn 3 now, so just at
track.
the end of 1. Yeah, and on top of that, he stayed on the lead lap, and I think he is the first of our pit callers to stay on the lead lap. Yes, Corey Preston immediately behind Sean Allen in position. He is a lap down on the leader, and there's a penalty for Ozrob that's just come through a drive-through. So not sure what's happened there.
Speeding
could likely
in the pit
be
lane.
a pit lane speeding infringement.
Well, that's unfortunate for Ozrob. Hasn't been a fantastic race for him so far. And, well, he's still in the pits. Oh, that's my live timing, beg your pardon. It's crashed. So that's why it says he's still in the pits, because it's still in the process of updating. So if you are interested in catching all the live timing as we see it, visit rsmclanau.liveracers.com. And in a few short moments when it comes back up, for me,
Jake Maloney's in the pits.
He is.
Sorry to cut you off there.
That means he'll try and effect an undercut now with 15 laps remaining in this race. He'll get fresher tyres. Now, Ethan Warren is in the lead of the race. Well, he's still in the lead of the race. He's coming up behind Colin Warwick, who's just come out of the pits.
Great thinking from Jake Maloney there, because he saw that traffic up in the distance and decided he didn't want a piece of it. But the traffic there does a very good job, Colin Warwick, of moving out of the way and letting the battle continue on.
So Maloney's in the pit. Zach Baker and that's RSM Latino in the pits as well.
We're trying to keep track of this race as it evolves, and it's a little difficult with all the pit callers potentially going a lap down. We're doing our best here. Stephen Birchall's also in the pits.
Yeah, that's a strange one. He was in the pits only 4 laps ago. I wonder if he forgot to change tyres as Jake Maloney tries to warm his tyres.
Might have taken on some damage, perhaps. He did run wildly off track trying to avoid impacting Kurt Stenberg. So that might have caused some damage. Ethan Warren's in. He's responded to Jake Maloney's pit call there.
And Zach Baker has remained ahead of Brody Steen despite getting all that traffic. Brody Steen hasn't done laps quick enough to affect the undercut. But having said
Brody
that...
Steen's Sean Allen, you mean?
Sean Allen, yes, beg your pardon. The other race on Oz driver. So Sean Allen made his pit stop earlier, got the fresh tyres. Zach Baker had all the traffic on the racetrack, and he's remained ahead despite that, but he has Sean Allen with warm tyres all over the back of him.
Tag in the pits. It was Ethan Warren, and I think it's the Erebus-style Penrite car. One of them, I don't know who that was, sorry. Let me just see if I can find it. It was...
Oh, it's an unsafe release.
Yeah, Colin Warwick, he's got released directly into the path of Zach Baker there.
Oh, and Ethan Warren's got a drive-through penalty. Sorry to interrupt you there. That has put paid to Ethan Warren's chances for victory. Must have been for speeding in the pit lane. Completely unrelated, I would say, to that little tag. What disaster for Ethan Warren.
And he's going to lose the lead of the race anyway as Jake Maloney comes up the inside of him through turn 2. Is he going to hold it there through turn 3? Yes, he does. Remember, he's on the warmer tyres. No, Ethan Warren still holding the outside line. Now he's going to inherit the inside for turn 5 if they can both go through side by side. They do, but yeah, Jake Maloney gets the move done. Yeah, I wonder if that contact may have caused a penalty because Ethan Warren was stopped when that penalty was given. So I'm not sure if it was. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was all about.
I'd say it would have been when he was coming out of the pits though, because it doesn't. If you get a drive-through penalty, as Will Devonish has just done for speeding in the pit lane, it tends to give it to you as you exit the pit lane.
Oh, wild.
And here he comes to serve it, so he's jumping out of that battle, having now been passed by Jake Maloney. So what disaster for Ethan Warren, and what disappointment for us. Was shaping up to be a fantastic battle to the end of this race, but now Ethan Warren is going to lose positions. It means that Sean Allen will move up into second place. Zach Baker, in fact, has now lost a position to Kurt Stenberg. And that's a tasty old battle going on now. Kurt Stenberg making his way up through the back end of this race, so he's looking like he's going to be a favourite for second place as Ozrob gets a drive-through penalty. So they're all coming.
Another drive-through penalty.
Yeah, and Ethan, is that another one
for Ethan Warren?
Is that another one for him?
I think so. Yeah,
just served
it's
one.
just showing up on my screen as well. So,
well, that's bizarre. I wonder if the pit lane speed limit line comes up before they were expecting. This is why you practice these things, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely right. And yeah, the pit lane is still part of the track, so you can gain a lot by nailing the pit entry and exit. As we just see Kurt Stenberg and Sean Allen in a heated battle on this 22nd lap. So just over 13 laps to go as they come through turn 6 and into the left to right chicane, using a lot of curb, both of them, as you do on the street circuit. Kurt Stenberg just get a little out of shape on exit. That probably helps him put the power down as they come over Boundary Street through turn 10 and into the hairpin at turn 11.
Oh, did you just see the lap time from Jake Maloney? 10.2. That's 3/10 faster than his previous best.
That's would have been good enough to put him on pole position, I think. It would have been mighty close.
Well, that must be frustrating to Kurt Stenberg, because he's almost the class of the field tonight, apart from the guys who are ahead of him. And he may well be ahead of Sean Allen by the end of this race, if the pace that he's been showing lately is any indicator. But the only car up the road ahead of that is the one that he's battling for points, and that car is 23 seconds up the road. Where's Ethan Warren? Fifth.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And remember, I was just saying, where's Ethan Warren? He's dropped back to fifth with that drive-through penalty. But remember, he's got another one we think, because that message came up again. And unless that's an error, I would say that's a second drive-through penalty for Ethan Warren.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate, because the Ethan Warren and Jake Maloney were the two classes of the field in that first stint. On Kurt Stenberg, remember, he started from third position and dropped down to 7th on that first lap. So had he not had to come through the field, he might have even been involved in this battle, as he steps out just a little bit on the entry to turn 11, locks up the rears, but manages to save it, loses a mountain of time. Just quickly, Jake Maloney set another purple middle sector, so he could be going even quicker this lap. The time updates, and it's a 10.3 flat, so only just outside the best lap of the race so far. Yeah,
he's going for a sub 1 minute 10, isn't he? It's an absolute pleasure to watch him drive. And that Trans-Tasman racing car with the yellow accents on it is something that we may well get used to seeing at the front of the queue, as he makes his way gloriously through the chicane there at turn 7 and 8. And now, without any cars to worry about anywhere near him, I think he's pulled out 2 seconds on Sean Allen. Is that another drive-through penalty for Ethan Warren? What is going on?
I'm not sure. He has taken... Yeah, there must be something going on with either his setup or his triggering of the pit lane speed limiter, because that's now every single time he's come through the pits, he's triggered a penalty. So yeah, not ideal for Ethan Warren, who's now down in 11th place and is only going to drop further.
Something to look at. I wonder if the line is in the wrong place or something like that, because we've seen a lot of drivers get that. Having said that, we've seen a lot of drivers not get the drive-through penalty, so perhaps there's nothing wrong with the circuit. It's just the drivers being a little bit too eager on the throttle pedal, not getting it slowed down enough. We know that pit lane speed limits in supercars are very, very, very slow, and especially around street circuits like Townsville. I believe it's around 40 kilometres an hour.
It is 40 kilometres an hour, yep.
Yeah, so it is a remarkable... It feels a lot slower than it actually is when you get down to that speed.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, hope he gets it sorted out for the next race, because we wouldn't want to have him lose that sort of opportunity again.
Well, he's been the shootout king in recent times, with him taking pole position in Darwin. Of course, that was uncontested, it has to be said. I mean, yes, there were 9 drivers who set times in that session, but Jake Maloney, who had set the fastest time in the qualifying session leading up to that top 10 shootout, was unable to contest. So it remains to be seen what happens when we see a direct head-to-head with Ethan Warren and Jake Maloney in a shootout, which we will hopefully get a chance to see later on tonight.
Fingers crossed.
Well, Sean Allen... Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Sean Allen doing a commendable job right now holding off Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, so that's the battle for third at the moment. It's still nose to tail, and it looks like Kurt Stenberg almost found the rear bumper of Sean Allen there as he tried to juke out of the way to make sure he didn't hit it. He's got an inside view onto turn 3, but doesn't decide to use it. Probably wise, considering this section narrows up very tight. You don't really want to be going 2x2, even though we have seen plenty of cars go through 2x2 this race so far. Yeah, I don't see Sean Allen being able to hold on for the next 9 laps. I think he could get close, but I don't think all 9 laps he's going to be able to do it. It'll be tight, though.
He did okay in Winton, I believe that was when he held on there. Oh, that wasn't a move. That was a moment from Kurt Stenberg as he got all sorts of out of shape there coming out of turn 9, I believe that was. So well, he's very racy at the moment. Kurt Stenberg on his previous lap set his personal best lap of the race there as he gets a little bit of overlap on the inside on the exit of turn 13, but Sean Allen holds on to it for the time being. But look at Kurt Stenberg almost bump drafting on the way down. Yeah, I was going to say,
the outside.
I thought he was going to feint to the outside and then dive down the inside, but he's forced Sean Allen.
He's got the crisscross, he's got the undercut here.
Exactly
and he's
right.
Take that inside line into turn 3, and he's going to make that move stick.
Is he though?
No, he backs out of it. Why would you back out of it there? He's still side by side here. Sean Allen on the outside. He's going to have the inside for turn 5. They go side by side through turn 5, but still side by side again. Kurt Stenberg on the inside. They make a little bit of contact through turn 6. Sean Allen still on the inside here into the chicane. They can't go side by side through the chicane, can they?
Yes, they can. This is an absolute ding-dong battle there. Kurt Stenberg's got the inside there for the next... He's just got to keep his foot on the floor. Another moment there for Kurt Stenberg. He doesn't seem to have the confidence under braking that Sean Allen does, but now he's got the inside. It's going to become the outside, though, for the final corner, and Sean Allen, he has a monster moment there on the throttle, and that has gifted Kurt Stenberg the moment, the position of second place. Look at Zach Baker coming back into this. What a fight from Sean Allen. I can't believe he hung on for as long as he did.
I can't believe Kurt Stenberg didn't close the move at turn 3. He had the inside line. He had the better braking point. He should have been able to just drive away. But regardless of that, great driving from the pair of them to get basically an entire lap around this circuit side by side.
Yeah, I think Sean Allen is that sort of that bug that you think you've killed a few times and it just keeps getting up. He's so strong under brakes, and where a few moments we thought Kurt Stenberg had that position done, Sean Allen was always able to outbrake Kurt and drive around the outside. This isn't completely done yet. If Sean Allen can stay somewhat within striking distance of Kurt Stenberg, he may well be able to outbrake him.
It would be... I think it's going to be difficult now as Stenberg's extended a few car lengths, about a second now ahead of Sean Allen. If he does get onto the back, though, you could see, as he has a little bit of a wiggle coming out of turn 11, I could see Zach Baker get very interested in this mix. But they do have a slower car just ahead of them. It's the VIP car of Bratt, who moves out of the way quite nicely to let that battle through. Yeah, very good job from him. But he's got to realize he's got 2 other cars in the same battle coming up behind him, and he does move over to the inside.
Go the inside. Good job there, because otherwise he would have been on the racing line if he'd stayed on the outside. And just that Zach Baker having a huge swapper out of turn 2. That was fun to watch. Will Devonish is the next car for these guys to lap. He's a fairly switched-on guy, so I shouldn't expect that will be too much trouble for them.
And while all this is happening, Jake Maloney is just having an absolute parade at the head of the field. 30 seconds ahead of the rest.
He's got a parade in front of him. Lots of
that
lap traffic.
Like a battle for, I think that's... what position is that he's just coming up to? 18th and 17th between Termo and Stephen Birchall, yes. And then ahead of them, they've got Brody Steen.
Oh, fun. Well, up until he catches those guys, he's the only man lapping in the 1 minute 10s. Did a 1 minute 11 on the previous lap, but still doing 10.8s and 10.7s prior to that.
And with the amount of time left in the race, only, 6 laps to complete now as we're on lap 29, he should, hopefully, without anything untoward happening, have this race very, very much sewn up, you would think.
You would think
Although
so.
I did say that at Barbagallo, and he proved me wrong.
Well, let's wait and see. We can't. Oh, huge moment there for Birchall. No, that was him letting leaders through, and so too. Was that Turmo?
Yeah.
Oh goodness, that was an interesting rejoin. He's now spun to the infield of turn 12, and that's a lesson in how not to let cars overtake. Jake Maloney probably won't care because he got out of his way. But poor old Turmo's given up position to Stephen Birchall with that moment, so not too good from his point of view. Bit unlucky. Jake Maloney's going a long way towards opening his account for Trans-Tasman Racing with a victory, but our hearts go out to Ethan Warren, currently a lap down.
Ooh, sorry to jump in on top of you. I was just looking at battle for 6 and 7. Corey Preston just got up on 2 wheels and almost flipped the car through turn 6. And he's managed to get it back on 4 wheels. Does lose a position, but whoa, that was scary. I'm not sure if you got a replay of that one, but that was wild.
Yeah, just trying to catch a replay there, and he did very, very well to get that car back on its 4 wheels and not on its roof. So he's still in that battle with Nigel Marneath. He could get that position back potentially in the remaining 5 laps. So good job from Corey Preston. It's a lucky thing for him that there was enough grass for him to get the car back righted instead of hitting a wall.
And just in the background of that shot, if you're still following Corey Preston, you've got Jinx and Thomas McMillan fighting over 8th place. Very, very tight. Thomas McMillan comes through to the inside through turn 1. He's going to have the inside for the second corner as well as they dived under brakes. Jinx, if he's smart here, he might be able to get the undercut. Doesn't quite get the drive out of the corner. So Thomas McMillan makes that move for 8th place.
Yeah, these two have been joined at the hip since the early stages of the race. Corey Preston is the one who got away. He's now about 8 seconds up the road from these two. It was a battle for 3 as Thomas McMillan has an all swapped up through turn 6. Almighty slide. Just wanted to finish my point from a few moments ago on Ethan Warren, who's now in 13th and a lap down. That puts an end to a podium run of 6 in a row from him. He finished 3rd and 2nd in Phillip Island before not starting the 2 Perth Super Night events, as Thomas McMillan goes wide and lets Jinx back past him and doesn't want me to finish this sentence apparently. So Jinx back up into 8th place.
And he's going to just quickly inherit 7th because Colin Warwick's come into the pits from 5th position, which is a bit odd.
Why has he done that? That's bizarre. Whereas he's in 9th place. There he is. Has he underfueled by 4 laps? That's unlike him.
Yeah, I couldn't. You wouldn't underfuel by 4 laps, would you?
Well, I don't know. Maybe his finger slipped. Anyway, that's very bad luck for Colin Warwick, who's now coming out in a gaggle of traffic. And
just behind his teammate, actually, in Jay Borg.
That's right. So that's gifted a few positions to those who he was ahead of. Where was he running at the time?
He was running in 5th, so he was ahead of the Marneath and Corey Preston battle before that all shook out.
Kurt Stenberg's broken free of Sean Allen. There's now about 2 seconds separating them, and Zach Baker doesn't seem to be doing anything about Sean Allen. So this there's a battle between Nigel Marneath and Corey Preston going on, actually. That's
still going on.
That's still going on after Corey Preston got it up on 2 wheels and gifted that position to Nigel Marneath, who is now defending it vigorously, as he should. The only Nissan Altima in this field, as far as I'm aware at the moment. It's good to see.
I think you're right.
Good to see all of the cars. We've got Commodores, Mustangs, Falcons, and Altimas in this field, which is very, very good to see. Nigel Marneath going very, very defensive into turn 2 there. And
he's going to pay the price. He's going to pay the price here because Corey Preston's got the inside line, does the undercut into turn 3, and he's going to be able to seal that move. Yes, he is. So now Corey Preston back ahead of Nigel Marneath for 5th position.
And he'll be wanting to give those curbs just a little bit wider berth than he was before.
We've got a yellow flag in sector 2 here. I wonder
what there we go. It's one of the VIP cars just went in front of shot after.
That's Brap.
It's Brap. So that's a cost Nigel money by the looks of it. Nigel money.
And it looks like we've got a safety car with 1 lap left.
Do we usually flash?
Flash yellow.
There it is. It's flashing. We've got a safety car. That hasn't happened for a long time since round 1 Adelaide. Well, that's probably going to mean we end under a safety car because we're on the penultimate lap of the race. And
Yeah, so Jake Maloney gets a parade.
assuming we don't have a green and white checker rule in effect, I can't remember if we do, to be honest, because the rules were changed. Jake Maloney's diving into the pits. Why is he doing that?
What? No. He can't. What is going on? He might have enough room, but he's underfueled by 1 lap.
Well, surely if he's underfueled by 1 lap, he could make it with the safety car. He only has to tootle round. Although, if he's read the rule book a little bit closer than I have as a commentator, it may well be that he knows that there is an extra lap if there is a safety car, if they're using a green and white checker rule. Kurt Stenberg, though, knows the rules better than anyone because he wrote them, and he's stayed
He's coming
out.
through the last corner now. It's going to be very tight whether or not Jake Maloney can hold the lead. Pulling out of the pit bay now. He's not going to get to the lead before the control line, and he's going to lose the lead. Kurt Stenberg now inherits the lead of the race.
What
and we
is
do have an
going on?
additional lap. Yes, you're right.
So we do have an additional lap. No one's caught the safety car yet, and I've found in my experience with Automobilista that the leader pitting when the safety car gets called confuses the game a lot. So, well, let's wait and see. I can't see where it is on the racetrack.
It is just heading into Sector 3 now. It's just going through the chicane. It's picked up Brap as the first car.
Well, he's
I'm
in 20th,
so
2 laps
confused.
down behind David Nedovich, who's just retired from the race and potentially could be one of the cause of this safety car if that's the case. Unless it was Brap. It probably was Brap, actually. That's who we saw spinning just prior to the yellow being flown. So this is certainly going to put the calculations to test if the extra lap has made some of the guys who are good on fuel marginal.
I don't know about you, but I'm confused.
Always happens when you commentate. Well, you said Brap had picked up the safety car. He's now coming into the pits with what looks like a severely damaged Commodore because that thing isn't steering very well and its bonnet is missing. And Kurt Stenberg's yet to... Oh, there's a big train of lapped cars here ahead of Kurt Stenberg. Kurt Stenberg is now trying to get to the front of. Jinx is the front of that queue at the moment there, and he's trying to get through, but no one's letting him. Jinx, to be fair, didn't really have anywhere to go now. Now Kurt has finally made it to the front of that queue and leads the race. Well, it wouldn't be
Automobilista Australia without something weird happening.
Exactly. Well, this is the first safety car we've had in the championship since round 1. We had a few competition safety cars the last time you commentated with us at the
exhibition race,
197.5 non-championships event.
And if I recall correctly, they didn't all go to plan all that well either, did they?
No, well, the competition cautions actually, every time they got thrown, made the gaps bigger, effectively, because they happen after leaders had made pit stops, for example, and then those behind still had to make them. So let's see if the safety car comes in on this lap. Sean Allen is now half a second behind Kurt Stenberg. I wonder if he's got anything left to fight. He's got a huge chunk of lap traffic in between himself and the guy leading the race. Jake Maloney's rejoined in 4th place behind Zach Baker. Did I say Zach Baker? I meant Sean Allen is in 2nd place. So, did we see it come in? Yes, it's peeled off. So we're about to go green. Kurt Stenberg leads the way. He won't be able to believe his luck that this has happened. Jake Maloney apparently underfueling and getting a 10-second stop and go penalty, presumably for a restart infringement. Did he hit the gas too early? Kurt Stenberg will be pleased with that as he's got a 0.6 of a second advantage. Jake Maloney showing in 2nd place. How has he managed to jump Zach Baker and Sean Allen on the race? That's probably why he's got the penalty. Unbelievable.
And Sean Allen and Zach Baker are just coming through. Plus, Will Devonish makes contact with Devonish.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's all happening, all going off right now.
Well, this
We've
always
got
happens
lap
when there's a
covers.
last lap dash. There's everyone trying to get past the lap cars. Unfortunately, the game doesn't have a chance to sort out the lap cars from the guys on the lead lap as they all fumble over the lead of the race. Now, this is very interesting because Jake Maloney's right up behind Kurt Stenberg. I wonder if that 10-second stop-go penalty will be removed at the end of this race. Investigations will prove whether or not that was a legitimate penalty or not, as Kurt Stenberg defends the inside, but Jake Maloney's going to get the switch back here out of turn 12. This is the final sector of the race, and he backs back out of it, switches to the inside on the final corner here. It's going to be an absolute drag race to the line, and Kurt Stenberg is going to hold on from his Trans-Tasman teammate in Jake Maloney, who comes across the line in second place, and in third place, Sean Allen. And the melee behind him, Nigel Marneef has made it up into 5th place. So Corey Preston lost that position in the end. Will Devonish up to 7th place. The first man on a lap down. Unbelievable finish.
I was absolutely gobsmacked. It looked like a blockade of cars coming through that first sector with that safety car restart. But yeah, a win in the end for Kurt Stenberg. You'd say maybe a little bit of a gift. Still trying to figure out what's going to happen to Jake Maloney after the race. But yeah, wow, what a wild finish.
Wild is correct. It's strange that the game hasn't actually further penalised Jake Maloney in that, because normally a 10-second stop-go penalty would get converted into a time penalty of some sort, but he is showing on our timing screens as being just short of 0.3 of a second behind Kurt Stenberg as they cross the line, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the closest finish we've had in an Automobilista Supercars race. Somewhat artificial with the final lap dash, but what an end to the race. One we weren't expecting, and a little bit of luck for Kurt Stenberg. He claws back a couple of points in the championship, and that is his first victory of the year. Ethan Warren recovered 2 spots. At the end of that race, he was in 13th. He moves up to 11th, so he'll get a handy chunk of points there, but it won't be as high as he possibly would have. He could have inherited this win if he'd fueled a bit more than Jake Maloney at the end of that race. Jake Maloney seemingly very, very marginal on fuel and having to make that late pit stop.
And remember with Ethan Warren as well, he did have the pair of, well, the trio in the end of drive-through penalties. So still not sure what was going on with that. But he ended up finishing in 11th place. I want to give a big shout out to Marneef, who recovered very well towards the latter stage of that race and finished in 5th. So great finish for him. And yeah, so many stories at the end of that race. I'm still trying to process the melee that we got at the end there.
There we go. I just got word through from one of the server hosts, I'm a Car, as he is called in the live chat, says he cleared the penalty because Maloney shouldn't have got that penalty. So that was correct. He did get the penalty in error, and so that was a straight run to the line between Kurt Stenberg and Jake Maloney, and great that we've got server hosts who are able to do things like that when Automobilista throws up a bit of weirdness.
Yep, brilliant stuff. Yeah, it's a good thing that you're able to do that. Wish we could potentially see that sometimes in the main game as well. Nice, always nice having a revisit of the stewards if they give a somewhat odd penalty. I think there was 1 or 2 of those on the weekend. If you're watching the Supercars live,
there we go. So that gives us a bit of a chance to calm down and just take a breath and gear up to do it all over again, because we've got that plus the added excitement of a top 10 shootout. So what time are we now? 15 minutes to 9 in my part of the world, but half an hour ahead of that if you're in the eastern states. And we're going to be starting our qualifying session, which will determine the top 10 for the shootout now.
Cracking straight into it. Already cracking straight into it. We're already a minute into this session by the looks of it. Yeah. First car out on track looks like it is Stephen Birchall at the moment. So no rest for the wicked.
Well,
here
Ethan Warren's
at-
actually just coming
Is
through
he?
the end of the second sector now. So he's the first man on the racetrack, just taking out a curb, a cone, I should say, not a curb. Ethan Warren eager to make amends for what was probably a win for him in that first race. If he managed to fuel a little bit more than Jake Maloney, he would have inherited that when Jake came into the pit lane.
Yeah, really unfortunate. Hopefully he's worked out his pit lane limiter and his margins, so that way he doesn't lose again. But yeah, what could have been a win ended up as an 11th place. Not exactly what you want when you've got that opportunity.
The other word that came through from Imakar, who is our server host, also doubling as Colin Warwick's pit engineer, and very honestly coming clean that he miscalculated Colin's numbers by the tune of 3 or 4 laps, we understand, and much more than that with the added laps because of the safety car. So don't quit your day job. We appreciate everything you do as a server host, but I'm sure Colin doesn't really appreciate your miscalculated fuel numbers there.
So explain to me why you would run a 1-lap dash in this sort of thing if you have the safety car coming out late in the race.
It's mainly so that us fans aren't not deprived of a finish or a race to the line. A concept that primarily comes from American racing, I understand, the green and white checker. But of course, it certainly ruins anyone's calculations if they've gone very, very tight on fuel.
Yeah, exactly right. And I don't know, I might be a bit of a purist, as some of you who've listened to my commentaries a bit before would know. I'm a big fan of endurance racing and stuff like the WEC and IMSA competition, that sort of stuff. And if you have to finish under a safety car, you have to finish under a safety car. Then that's just sort of the way it goes.
Yeah.
And I mean, even on the weekend for the V8s, we did see a finish under safety car in that second race. So I don't know. I think that might be something to revisit if they plan on revising some of the rules. But it certainly gave us a bit of a spectacle. We'll say that.
It certainly did. I won't say it wasn't entertaining, but
no.
And as happy as I am for Kurt Stenberg getting his first victory of the championship, it probably was an unfair result in the end, given Jake Maloney absolutely had that race by the short and curlies, and robbed at the end by the way that
something untoward happening.
Yeah, something. And of course, those last lap sprints aren't races; those are just melees. And especially with all the lap traffic involved, that was messy to say the least. I'm surprised that we didn't have a bigger pile-up. We saw a lot of bumping going on, and we didn't catch all of it. But it's very, very hard to get clean racing when everyone's scrabbling for the same bit of tarmac.
I think it was Zach Baker who got very lucky there, got into a little altercation with Will Devonish, and they made contact with the wall, but both seemed to escape. As we've got some of the cars on flying laps now, it looks like Kurt Stenberg down currently in 18th place, has a purple sector 1, but Ethan Warren's just crossed the line and not recorded a lap time there. Must have taken a curb strike because he had a purple sector 2 and didn't end up recording a time. His time currently leads at a 10.5.
Just 6 times in at the moment, and Corey Preston with the slowest of those times at the moment, 12 seconds off, so that's not representative. And of course, 10.5 will probably be good enough to get into the top 10, I would think, but Ethan Warren no doubt will want to continue to try and improve that.
That was just about what I was going to say. Remember, this is a shootout for the top 10. So if 10th down, that's your grid position. But of course, we do have that top 10 shootout coming up immediately after this for the second race here at Townsville.
So Kurt Stenberg slotted into second place, but 7 tenths behind Ethan Warren. So that's in the 11s. Ethan Warren still the only man in the 10s. Where's Jake Maloney? Doesn't look like he's come out onto the racetrack yet. Still showing in the pit lane down there in 16th place. So he's only got 4 minutes and 1 go. They do have a limited number of tyre sets for this qualifying and shootout. And the race itself, they get 4 sets of tyres per race. And they can be used at any point throughout. So if they elect to use 2 in qualifying, that means they've only got 2 left for the race and the shootout.
And I think you'd want to put green tyres on in the shootout. I think don't think you want to be chancing it on used tires, as Ethan Warren puts in a 10.119, fastest lap we've had this evening so far, and extends his lead to over a second over Kurt Stenberg, who had a bit of a slower lap that time, possibly trying to give the tires a break as he starts this lap heading into turn 2 now. Really nice planted front end there as he just nicks the curb and uses all the road on the exit through towards turn 3. A bit of a curve there in the straight, which means that you have to, car's a little unsettled as he gets very unsettled on the exit over that curb that's sticking out at turn 3, over the bridge at turn 4, into the sweeping section 5 and 6, using a lot of curb at 5 and even more at 6. All the way over the apron, braking now for turn 7. His sector 2 time's going to come up, and he's a 10th outside of his personal best as he clatters the curbs at 7 and 8 and gets the power down very nicely through turn 9 over Boundary Street, keeping the car settled and in the head to the hairpin at turn 11. He's right up against the wall on entry at turn 11, using as much space as he possibly can as he comes through turn 12 and spins it out. Oh no!
I thought the car looked like it was rotating a fair bit through there. It just kept going. It was a funny camera angle. That's unfortunate because it was the final sector where he came unstuck. Again, his sectors were pretty good in 1 and 2 throughout most of his laps, and thankfully for him it's a short run to the pit lane. Colin Warwick comes across the line, doesn't improve, but he's in second place, so good job from him, looking pretty comfortable at the moment. Sean Allen coming up to the final corner to complete a lap, currently sat in 4th place, 1.2 seconds off that set by Ethan Warren. Those on the bubble will be a bit worried because Jake Maloney hasn't set a time yet. Sean Allen unable to improve. Nigel Marneef is sat in the pit lane with 2 minutes left. Corey Preston and Colin Warwick going slowly. Colin's just gone back to the pits. So time is ticking. God, these sessions go so quickly, don't they? Already only 2 minutes left.
And there's still a swing of drivers who haven't made a start yet. So Jake Maloney hasn't gotten out of the pits. RSM Latino not either. And Thomas McMillan is parked in the bay as well. Hasn't taken to the track yet. So if you're not out on track now, you're going to be in a bit of strife as we come up to the last minute and 40 seconds of qualifying for the second race.
And so too, a lot of guys are actually sat in the pits. So I wonder if McMillan's been told to serve his penalty of exclusion from qualifying now, as opposed to race 1. But Jake Maloney is going to have to make a move in the next 10 seconds, I would say, to make it out in time to set a lap. And there's been no movement at all from the Trans-Tasman Racing Garage. So he's electing to start effectively from the back. He's not going to make it into the shootout. There is now no time left for Jake Maloney to set a lap time.
Wow.
Let's look at the bubble. Who's on the bubble? It's currently Brody Steen, who's on a lap right now, trying to improve on 10th. And who's behind him? We've got anyone. David Nenadic could possibly unseat him. Stephen Birchall, Termo, Zach Baker, Oz, Rob, and Brap. Of those who've set times.
Definitely be pushing his way into the top 10 as he comes through turn 11 now into turn 12. Gets a little bit of oversteer, controls it very nicely. Coming into the last corner now. He's on a decent lap. It's not a quick, not a blinding lap. But
Schultz
he's
on the bubble now. Brody Steen went up to 9th.
He's gonna. Zach Baker's just coming across the line and puts in a
good job.
1:11 flat. So he goes straight into second. That puts Aiden Schultz on the bubble, who is out on track at the moment. So he could.
Oh no,
sorry,
Schultz is
Schultz
in the garage. That's it. So he's been dropped down to 11th with that. Brody Steen did improve to 9th on his previous lap, but that has dropped him back to 9th. And his
10th,
teammates. Sorry, he was 9th. He's now dropped to 10th. He is on a lap, so he will have a right of reply. He's up by 2/10, which would put him safe, I'd say, up around 7th or 8th place. But behind him, Aiden Schultz, David Nenadic, Stephen Birchall. In fact, I think there's no one behind him on a decent lap who can unseat him. So, although it's precarious position, I would say that Brody Steen is safe.
We do have Termo and Stephen Birchall on laps. Termo just outside his personal best at the moment, and Stephen Birchall's put it in the wall, so he's not going to be a factor. So just on watching Termo, he's gotten very out of shape in turn 6, so that would possibly put pay to his challenge. He's
had a good look at the wing cup wall there on the XM6.
Exactly right.
And he's down by 10th. on his personal best, which was only good enough for 14th. So he's not going to make up 4/10 of a second in that final sector, is he?
You know, I don't think so. Brody Steen did improve and puts himself up to 7th, so that puts Devonish on the bubble. But as you made mention, it doesn't look like anyone on track has a better lap in them at the moment, which means that we've got our top 10 by the looks of it.
Turmo did improve on that lap, but only by 8.5 hundredths of a second, which was not good enough to improve his position. But he'll start from 14th. Bizarrely, we had 3 guys not set laps in that qualifying session, and those were Thomas McMillan, Jake Maloney, and RSM Latino. So 2 of those fairly big names. We think Thomas McMillan is serving the penalty that he was supposed to serve in the first qualifying session, but Jake Maloney is going to miss out on another top 10 shootout. But at least he didn't get to the shootout and then not contest it, which meant effectively last round that we had a top 9 shootout. We will have everyone down to Will Devonish in the shootout there.
Yep, so we'll just take you through those shootout drivers. We've got Ethan Warren, Zach Baker, Kurt Stenberg, Colin Warwick, Sean Allen, Corey Preston, Brody Steen, Nigel Marnie, Matt Lepoideven, and Will Devonish. Great effort from Matt there. I think you made mention he's our wildcard driver for this race. Is that correct?
You've put me on the spot. I haven't actually checked the results of the Super 2 race. Let's do that now while we've got a spare moment. It was Adrian Instinct won that race for Super 2, so he's been doing a good job for them. I wonder... no, so I guess he wasn't able to contest, or he elected not to, because Turmo is the man from Super 2
yes,
who finished 3rd behind JP Courier and Instinct, and I believe he earned that wild card with the 2 ahead of him electing not to take it.
Yeah, well, yes. Interesting top 10. Of course, the big names, Jake Maloney and the other one, Thomas McMillan, thank you. Thank you for saving me there, not making it. And it looks like we're going to have our first driver in the shootout on track. This is Will Devonish, who's sitting at pit exit.
Yep, and Will Devonish is good at making top 10 shootouts, actually. We've seen him in quite a few. He was in the Adelaide one, and if I'm not mistaken, he made it to the top 10 shootout in the Perth exhibition event a few months ago.
Yes, but that Perth exhibition event, I think, had 11 takers, so...
Well, there was quite a few he was up against, again, in the Adelaide one. I think there was about 30 cars in that session, so he's done well, again, to make a shootout. But he did bottle that lap. I don't want to give him the commentator's curse, so I'm just mentioning that in case he bottles it again, in which case he'll probably blame me, but if he doesn't, he'll say it's because I did mention it. If you're following my logic.
You can't win, can you?
Exactly. You just got to call it as you see it, don't you?
Yeah. Just getting news from Kurt Stenberg in our broadcast chat. Thomas McMillan is serving that discretion from the previous race. So
as we thought.
Yes.
Yeah. We were ahead of the game on that one, weren't we?
Yeah, on the ball. Go us.
On the ball. So, Will Devonish is completing his warm-up procedure. He only has 2.8 kilometers to do that, but he's done it, and let's see how effective it has been. I love that livery. The Wall Race Engineering car looks an absolute treat with the yellow accents on the red and black as Will starts his lap.
Going to take a tight line into the first corner and then brake hard just at the 150 board for this turn 2. Gets the nose pointed in beautifully there. Kisses the apex very nicely using all the road in the exit, sweeping through this short straight into turn 3. And he just nicks the curb there, bounces over the exit curve as you do, and he sets a 21.2 as the first benchmark in the first sector, sweeping through turn 5 now. Nicely done. Kisses the curb there and the curb on the right. Yes, very good. Uses all the concrete apron. I see those witness marks from qualifying heading to the Whincup walls. He gets a little wide through the chicane, which is going to compromise his exit into this faster section down towards turn 11 over the hump at Boundary Street, using all the road on the left and braking hard at the 150 board. Gets the front turned in. Looks like the fronts have just gone off a little bit as he doesn't quite get to the apex. Brings the throttle up nice and gently through turn 12. Gets it tied get the front dived in for the last corner, and again just misses the apex there as he tries to rotate the car around and crosses the line, and Will Devonish sets a 1:11.989 as the benchmark time for this top 10 shootout.
I like that. That's a good lap from Will. Clean, and 11.9 is nothing to be ashamed of. So he's now got Matt Lepoidovan coming up behind him to see if he can unseat Will Devonish from the provisional pole. Unfortunately, our live timing... it's back. I was going to say, unfortunately, it deserted us, so we're flying blind, but it is back. And that means we've got all of the sector times to look at and analyze as Matt Lepoidovan gets a nice late apex out of the final corner to launch himself onto this straight and down to turn one. Turn one, which as Martin Brundle says, doesn't exist, but it does exist. It just doesn't exist if you're a brake pedal. Turn two is the first proper corner on this racetrack, and very nicely done indeed as he comes up to the first sector split, something around the 21.1 there. He finds a 10th and a half on what Will Devonish did.
Yeah, it looked a lot smoother. Was able to take a much wider run through that little curve section between 2 and 3. Not smooth through there as he gets a little sideways after nicking the curb at turn 5, but gets a lot more of the curb at turn 7.
He still found time though. Still found time there, Michael. Nearly 0.2 of a second, and over that bump through turn 10, makes his way down to the hard braking zone at turn 11, and very, very ginger on the throttle, but he still lights it up out of 12. The grip just isn't there in that part of the racetrack. Into the final corner now, and kisses the apex a little bit closer than Will Devonish did, I think it's safe to say. And to the line, 11.9 the time to beat. He finds 6.5 tenths, and so that was the final sector where Will clearly lost all of his advantage.
Yeah, Will's problem in that final sector was getting the front of the car into those slow corners, and we saw it at the chicane and at both hairpins. So that's where Will lost his time. That's where Matt Lepoidovan was able to gain his.
It was, but he was fastest in all three sectors, but most of that time coming in the final sector as we turn our attention now to Nigel Munif braking for turn 2.
Yeah, it didn't quite get all the way to the apex there, and a little blip on the brake pedal I saw as he exits turn 2. So maybe just struggling with a little bit of oversteer. Oh, it goes all the way over the curb on the entry to turn 3, and that shot him out almost into the wall there, and he's down on Matt Lepoidovan's time, and he's wide through the middle sector as well. So a bit of a messy lap so far for Nigel Munif. Let's see what he can do up the second sector, and he's 2 tenths.
Oh yeah, he was only 100th of a second down through the first sector, but as you said, messy through that middle sector, really attacking it, and as a result, he loses 2 tenths of a second, most of that coming through that middle sector. Let's see what he can do for the final sector. Can he get the power down a little bit easier than Matt Lepoidovan did? It appears to me like that was smoother, but was it slower or was it faster? So I reckon he was a little bit wider of the apex than Matt was. Nigel comes to the line, and is it going to be provisional pole? No, it's not. 10th and a half. He found a little bit of time in that final sector, but it was not enough.
Yeah, he lost all that time in that middle sector, getting well out of shape and quite a bit of understeer through the middle part of the lap. So Matt Lepoidovan still our provisional pole sitter, as we have now, I think it is Brody Steen on track for his lap. He's just coming onto the main straight now to start his shootout lap.
Yeah, more of a conventional line through the final corner to start his lap from Brody Steen than we saw from Matt Lepoidovan and Nigel Munif, who both took a deeper entry into the corner so that they could square up the car and get it off and launch for their lap. But Brody Steen decided not to do that. All sorts of on the limit on the brakes. Let's see what the timer thinks of it as Brody Steen comes up to the first sector split. These are very close times, only tenths of a second in it.
Yeah, it looked like Brody Steen was very uncertain on the brakes heading into turn 1. That might have been what's cost him the time, but used a lot of curb through the middle sector, and that'll do very well for him as he comes up to the second sector beam, and he's up by almost 2 tenths, a tenth and a half at this stage. good run over the curbs in the chicane, gets the power down nicely through Boundary Street on towards turn 11. Not using all the road, interestingly, but he's got enough room here. Let's see if he can get that front tucked in, or maybe not as happy as he would have liked through that section. The car tries to get away through turn 12, but he's coming around the final corner, makes the apex just through that corner. He's coming up to the line. Let's see how this slots him in, and it's an 11.2, and he's that is the best time of the session.
That
Sorry,
is
it's coming
provisional.
up as,
Yes,
it's coming up as +0 on my screen.
Oh,
so I was
yes, another Automobilista special, that one. It came up on my screen though as a 10.5 up. Brody Steen has taken provisional pole. Still no one in the 1 minute 10s, but we've had it's a pretty close qualifying session so far. We've had no real blowouts.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not
And we've
yet.
still got some of the big hitters to come.
As I say that, so
Yeah.
the next guy's going to bin it, isn't it? The next guy is Corey Preston, who had an eventful race one, up on two wheels, nearly on his roof at one stage, puts the lights on, and he's going to come across the line to begin his lap. What sort of time can he muster?
Very narrow into that first corner, and he almost gets the wall on towards turn 2. Ooh, just pinched the rear brakes as he tried to dive for the apex.
Used a lot more circuit than Brody Steen on the entry there.
Yeah, but hugs the wall into turn 3. Is he gonna? And he's up by a 10.5 in that first sector. So very good first sector from Corey Preston, despite that narrow line. Coming now through the flowing section of the track, and he's all the way over the curb.
Yeah, we had to wait an age to get back on the throttle as the car was bouncing up and down, and he had to wait for that to finish and settle before he could get back on it. And he's lost a huge chunk of time through that middle sector now, nearly 0.3 of a second down on Brody Steen. He's going to try and find it all back in the final sector, right out to the wall as he came through turn 10, and just a few corners left for him now.
I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Way too much curb through the chicane as well, bouncing him around as he comes through to the final corner. And as you made mention, you can't put the throttle down if the car's still in the air. So he's coming through the last corner onto the main straight and sets a 11.6, which slots him into provisional 4th, just ahead of Will Devonish at this stage.
Just rejoin our next guy, Sean Allen, as he was going all the way out to the wall on his outlap, so he's pushing it to the edge, perhaps a dress rehearsal of what he's going to do on his actual lap. But yeah, Corey Preston, that was the most up and down lap we've seen. That first sector was sublime, by far the best that we've seen, and it all fell apart in the middle and the final sector. Just his smoothness went away, and it got a bit too aggressive in the end.
Yeah, and that's the fine line in this shootout as Sean Allen starts his lap. It's all about finding that balance between absolute, what do we call it, showmanship, to be nice, and getting that smooth finish.
We love the guys who give us a bit of showmanship, though, don't we?
Oh, it's great fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
unfortunately, it doesn't equal lap time always, which is unfortunate.
Sean Allen has basically almost under the radar set the fastest first sector. We were talking about other things there. It was very clean from Sean Allen, and not as much curb from him there as we saw from Corey Preston. So Sean Allen's doing a pretty decent job here, and the timer doesn't lie. He's up by 0.2 through the middle sector now.
Very smooth over those curbs. Car looks very nicely set up, very well damped as he comes through turn 10 into turn 11, not even near the wall. Very smooth, very controlled lap so far from Sean Adam. He's just got 2 more corners to execute. Just gets a little bit of sideways movement through turn 12, but controls it very nicely. Yeah, this is probably the smoothest lap we've seen.
Wide through the final corner, maybe.
Yeah, just a little bit. It comes up to the line, and our first lap in the 10s, a 10.7. Brilliant lap.
That was a brilliant lap. So we've broken the 11 threshold, and by some margin now we're 0.3 in to the 1 minute 10s, and we now turn our attention to Colin Warwick. I wonder if he's got enough fuel on board for a single lap. I kid.
Just quickly on Sean Allen's lap, 0.2 faster than everyone in the final sector.
Wow.
So brilliant work from Sean Allen there, and that's where he got a lot of his
absolutely
time.
on the limit coming out of turn 11 and 12. You mentioned he was a little bit squiggly, but I think that he found the nice balance between not being too much of a of a pussy on the throttle, and also not lighting up the rears too much.
Ooh. And as we've been talking about Sean Allen, Colin Warwick sets the fastest first sector so far, even faster than Corey Preston through that first sector. So he's on it as he bounces over the curves very nicely at turn 6 and heads up to the second timing split. Let's see how it is. And he's behind.
I don't see where he lost the time. It was a pretty good looking middle sector to me, but maybe Sean Allen was just that much smoother and that much faster through there.
Must have been. Colin Warwick coming into the last section of the track now. Looks very smooth, though. This is very nice driving from Colin Warwick as he comes up to the final corner.
He'll be up against it, though. Sean Allen was very good in that final sector.
Yeah, but with this time, he could possibly slot into second, which would be very, very good result for him as he comes across the line, and it's an 11.076, so just outside the 10s, but it does put him into provisionally second place.
So Sean Allen remains the only driver to have set a sub 1 minute 11 lap time there. So Colin Warwick losing a little bit of time through the final sector, maybe a little bit steady out of this corner that we're seeing Kurt Stenberg go through now, and grabbed more curb through the final corner than we've seen anyone else take. I wonder if that cost him a tenth or two.
Possibly. Kurt Stenberg now on his flying lap, just about to cross the line. So this will be one of the first of the big heavy hitters that we're expecting to set some blistering lap times. As he comes through turn 1, very smooth, very nice. Gets the car settled, just not quite fully settled, and didn't look like he made the apex there as he uses all the road, almost nicking the mirror on the exit of turn 2, heading into turn 3.
Oh, that's great work from Kurt Stenberg. Nearly 0.2 of a second up through that first sector. I thought it looked like he was on the limit coming onto the throttle for turn 2. That's about 10 short of 2. Oh, that's a bit wide through 6. I wonder if he's going to remain up through the middle sector. Yes, he is. So Sean Allen, he's pegged that gap 0.2 of a second.
So yeah, purple first sector, purple second sector, and by a long way as well. First one in the 20s in the first sector for Kurt Stenberg, using all of the concrete apron there on the left to make that turn into turn 11. He's got it nice and settled through turn 12, coming up to the last corner. Maybe just a little wide as he brings the throttle up and screws it out the other side. Where is he going to be on the totem pole? And it's pole so far for Kurt Stenberg, a 10.5 in the shootout, which puts him to the top of the tree at this stage, with only Zach Baker and Ethan Warren to come.
Well, that's going to be a tough time to beat. 10.5, that's pretty good. I mean, we have seen a 10.1 from Ethan Warren. I believe it was Ethan Warren in the qualifying session leading onto this, as Zach Baker slides it out of the final corner to begin his lap. But it's much harder to replicate that over one lap in a shootout when the pressure is on and all eyes are focused on you. What can Zach Baker do? Qualified ahead of Kurt Stenberg to get into this shootout, which was a fantastic job from him. Kurt Stenberg, the race winner from race 1 tonight, but ran most of that race in second place. Zach Baker, well, he's done a mighty job to get where he is, but he's 0.4 of a second down, so that's nowhere near where he needs to be.
Yeah, very narrow on entry there to turn 3. It doesn't look like that car's compliant with the front end. The front end's not getting into the corner as he goes well wide in turn 6 and wide on the entry to turn 7. He's a second out now. So that's definitely not what you want in the shootout. The car looks extremely unsettled, understeery on entry and oversteery on exit. It doesn't look like it's got the balance at all.
Yeah, if he continues at that sort of pace, he's down around Nigel Munif, Corey Preston. And that's probably not where he wants to be, considering the expectations he would have come into this shootout with, having qualified ahead of Kurt Stenberg, championship number 2. So
I wonder if he's forgotten to change tyres, because that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, it could be.
12.3. That's not where Zach Baker was hoping to be for this shootout, as we've got now Ethan Warren coming through the last sector to start his lap.
Baker, hey? You think those tyres are cooked?
Ha! That's a good one. I like it.
There we go. Got to slip the old dad joke in there. Ethan Warren, though, is the man to beat. And can he do the double and get pole position in race 1 and race 2 tonight?
It certainly looks possible as he perfectly meets the apex at turn 2 and gets a little bit of he's nicked the wall there.
Gone, there goes the mirror.
The wall as he comes in out of turn 2 over the curb at turn 3, and he's up by 0.02 of a second to the first sector. Over the crest at turn 5, rides the curb very well there. Over the curb at turn 6.
Oh, that's wide!
Counter steer onto the grass, and he's hit the wall again there on the entry, and it slowed him up down a 10th.
Grabbed more curb than my grandma trying to park down at Safeway there, and lost it all on the exit, running wide, and he's a 10th down through the second sector split. He's got all to do in the final sector, and Kurt Stenberg was pretty strong through there, but we know that Ethan Warren's capable of a 10.1, so he's just got one more corner between himself and the end of this session, and this is why we have a good old-fashioned shootout to have this run to the line. Is it pole position for Kurt Stenberg, or is it pole position for Ethan Warren? He gets it by 0.5 of a second. He clambers it back. A clutch pole position for Ethan Warren.
Fantastic, and it was all in that last sector where he made up all that time. Beautiful run out of that final corner. Got that last apex perfectly, and what a lap. Wow.
Yeah, it was on the ragged edge, wasn't it? Fair to say he's got more time in it, considering how much time he lost in the middle sector.
Yeah, he was the only one to get into the 32s in the final sector. So, brilliant lap from Ethan Warren, and yeah, well deserving of pole position.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is. Well, what a shootout. They never failed to disappoint, apart from in Hidden Valley when it failed to disappoint. Failed to...
you mean failed to deliver, right?
It failed to deliver, yes, that's right. Never failed to disappoint. They never failed to disappoint Kurt Stenberg, at least tonight, because I'm sure he would have thought he had pole wrapped up when he saw Ethan hitting that curb. Wow, what a fantastic shootout that was. And good to see it reach a climax like we didn't see in Hidden Valley, with Jake Maloney unfortunately unable to participate. Again, Jake Maloney unable to participate tonight, but
yeah, and that's something
reasons.
I just want to make mention of. It's not all bad for Kurt Stenberg, because his direct championship rival is going to be starting out of 18th. So, I mean, it's not great to have the pole position pit from you, but hey, silver linings.
Well, yeah, he could be on target for a very good night championship wise if Jake Maloney is unable to catch up to where Kurt Stenberg is. It's a street circuit, so the field spread is likely to be significant. We saw Jake Maloney making up a number of positions early on in the race last round. We've got our warm-up session, so that gives us a quick chance to have a break. And I want to continue this conversation on the other side. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Our live coverage of the Automobilista Supercars Championship will be back shortly. For more information about the Automobilista Supercars Championship, including race results and official championship points, don't forget to visit the Automobilista Supercars Facebook and Instagram pages for all the latest news and results. To enhance your watching experience, you can follow all of the live timing for each race at rsmclanau.liveraces.com.
Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex. In race 1, a poor start from championship leader Jake Maloney saw him drop to 4th from the front row, while pole sitter Ethan Warren got the ideal start to get the whole shot into turn 1. Jake would fight back quickly though, taking Thomas McMillan on the second lap, and caught up to second place man Kurt Stenberg by the halfway point in the race. Kurt would not give up without a fight, going side by side for almost a whole lap. The arm wrestle ended with Maloney eventually the victor, as Kurt struggled to get the power down out of turn 1.
Nearly spun around. How did Kurt hold on to that?
Meanwhile, in 4th place, Colin Warwick was the cork in the bottle, having forgotten to put new tyres on after qualifying. He wasn't the only one, as Thomas McMillan crashed in the latter stages of the race, dealing with a similar issue. The battle behind Colin Warwick ended in tears for Brody Steen and Corey Preston at turn 1. Zach Baker gained 2 positions out of the incident, and got another a lap later, with Colin Warwick going wide at turn 1. Ethan Warren avoided all of the carnage to win the race by 2 seconds over Jake Maloney and Kurt Stenberg. The sensation of the shootout was the anticlimactic finish when Jake Maloney dropped out of the server at the crucial moment, allowing Ethan Warren to take pole position. Ethan Warren had another good start for race 2, with Thomas McMillan slotting in behind him in second, and Kurt Stenberg third, as Jake Maloney made up 5 spots in the opening lap and a half. The subject of controversy for the opening stanza of the race was the lap 4 incident involving Zach Baker, Sean Allen, Brody Steen, and Will Devenish. By lap 6, championship leader Jake Maloney had caught his rival at the top of the points, Kurt Stenberg, and a brilliant repeat of their arm wrestle from race 1 was to follow. By the time the pit stop started, Maloney had caught and passed Thomas McMillan, but not without McMillan putting up one hell of a fight. Soon McMillan would come under pressure from Kurt Stenberg. After getting past McMillan, Stenberg was the first of the two to pit, and managed to hold on to the position just as McMillan came in on the next lap.
Kurt Stenberg manages to hold on to that position.
What followed was one of the best battles we've seen in Automobilista Supercars over the final spot on the podium. The battle finally went in favour of Kurt Stenberg when Thomas looped it in the hairpin.
Of course, outbrakes himself. Thomas McMillan gets the switchback, loses the rear end, and he's gone all the way across the infield.
Once again, Ethan Warren was untouchable out front, taking victory by 5 seconds over Jake Maloney to claim the Darwin Triple Crown. Kurt Stenberg had a quiet end to the race after the fireworks with McMillan to complete his podium double for the night. Welcome back to Townsville for the Automobilista Supercars Championship. That's more or less the halfway point. If you're talking about it in terms of rounds, we're halfway through the middle round, round number 7 of 15, and that gives us a good opportunity to talk about championship points with Kurt Stenberg getting his first victory of the championship, and that is his 7th podium of the championship, and it puts him, 1770 points to Jake Maloney and 1743 points to Kurt Stenberg. He's still within a race win of the championship leader and could well get some more points back tonight, starting on the front row with Jake Maloney at the back.
Yeah, so does the ASC follow the real-life supercars point scheme?
It certainly does, and that is a points situation. It's a points setup that really does reward the drivers who are the most consistent, because the difference between first, second, third isn't as much as you might see in percentage terms in other series like perhaps MotoGP or Formula One. It very much incentivizes finishing races, because you still get a handy chunk of points finishing 10th, 15th, or even 20th.
Exactly right, and that's one of the things I love about the V8 Supercars point scheme. And I feel like the FIA could use it for a bit more of their endurance stuff as well. It's a bit wild having grids of 60 odd with only the top 10 getting points. So at least in the V8 Supercars situation, you know, if you have a lap 1 incident like we saw Davey Reynolds have at on the weekend, you're incentivized to get the car back out and get some points, because you get a hefty chunk. It's about 50 points for last place. As long as you make it the finish line, that is.
Very, very important. Now, you were having some technical issues. Have you rectified that? Because we're just off on our warm-up lap.
Yeah. In the game, Stairs, and everyone at home, I am.
Fantastic. All right, do you want to take us through the grid?
Yes, we'll do. So, Ethan Moore is the car. His second for...
Oh, dear. It appears your... Discord is having some issues. I wonder if that's on my side or your side. Let me just try and sign out and sign back in, see if that...
I think that is on mine, so it's probably just as a crux of jumping back into the game again.
Possibly. Let me take this opportunity to just hurry up and finish the grid off while that seems to rectify itself. Sean Allen in 3rd place from Colin Warwick, with Brody Steen in 5th place, completing the race on Oz sandwich there. Matt Lapoitovan, great qualifying for him in 6th place, ahead of Nigel Marneef and Corey Preston. Will Devenish and Zach Baker round out the top 10. And then those who didn't make the shootout, Aiden Schultz, David Nedovich, Stephen Birchall, Termo, Oz Rob in 15th place ahead of Brapp, Thomas McMillan, Jake Maloney and RSM Latino electing not to set laps, and Jay Borg joined after qualifying to round out that grid of 20.
Yep, so apologies for all of our technical dramas. We are all sorted now, fingers crossed we hope, as the cars come onto the main straight to grid up for this second race. It's again another 35 lap race, time set at 50 minutes, so that shouldn't be a factor. And hopefully we get through this one a little cleaner at the end than we did last time.
Yeah, that certainly surprised us in the back end. It was, despite having a lot of drama in that, or a lot of wheel-to-wheel action, it wasn't a messy race. We didn't have big crashes. We had little touch and runs.
Up until the very end, which of course had the safety car, which threw everything out the window. But we're ready for a race start here. The lights are coming on, and we're almost ready to go.
We certainly are. Ethan Warren sits on pole. Can he get it off the line as well as he did in the last time? Thomas McMillan has got a drive-through penalty. Is that a jump start, perhaps? Kurt Stenberg coming up the inside. Colin Warwick's had a great start as they go 3 wide down to turn 2. Unbelievable stuff here. And if they get through here, it'll be an absolute miracle. But Kurt Stenberg with the lead of the race. Colin Warwick gets a few bumps from the race on Oz guys behind. Ethan Warren slots into second place, so Colin Warwick's up a spot. Matt Lepoitovan looking up the inside of Colin Warwick is up 2 spots. Great start. Sean Allen's the one dropping back. Corey Preston moves up. Brody Steen drops back. And they're still side by side through a large chunks of the middle sector. Is that Thomas McMillan? He's made up 7 spots. He's in 10th.
Yes, but remember, he did have that jump start, so he's already got a drive-through penalty, so that's all a bit moot for him as they come through the chicane at turns 7 and 8.
Oh, it's Stephen Birchall. Stephen Birchall's got spun around. Thomas McMillan was at the scene of the crime, but that doesn't mean that he caused it. We'll have to see a replay of that one, and let's do just that. So it was coming up to the turn 10 bit there, and I think he just looped that on his own, Stephen Birchall. And Thomas McMillan has had an off by the looks of it, although he's still in 10th. So let's go back to the front as Kurt Stenberg is coming under pressure from Ethan Warren.
And a bit further back, Sean Allen's holding back both Matt Lepoitovan and Corey Preston. They just make a little bit of touch side to side. Matt Lepoitovan's gone wide there after contact, and he's going to drop another position. So now Corey Preston up in the 5th, Matt Lepoitovan in 6th, and Brody Steen. Ooh, a little more. There's still going on there between Matt and Corey Preston as the field filters through over the bridge on this second lap at the Townsville Street Circuit.
Great start from Corey Preston, now up 3 spots. That sort of contact, that sort of rear quarter panel to front quarter panel was the kind of incident in real life would potentially pluck a wheel out, like we saw to Jake Maloney, Scott McLaughlin and David Reynolds. I think Jake Maloney should take it as something of a compliment that I accidentally confused him with Scott McLaughlin. Speaking, though, of Jake Maloney, he's up 7 spots from where he started without a drive-through penalty and up into 11th place. So that is a fantastic piece of news if you're a Jake Maloney fan, as they go 2 by 2.
It's Ozrob's gone around in 19th position. He looks like it might have been an issue with, I think it was Thomas McMillan coming in for his pit stop that might have caused that.
Let's see a replay of that. Well, that was, it looked like, let's see a little bit more of the incident there. Thomas McMillan was ahead of him as we got one of the Penrite cars getting unceremoniously clouted there. I think Ozrob did that all by himself, as much as he'd probably like to have someone to blame that on. As Thomas McMillan comes back onto the racetrack down in 20th and last place, so what disappointment for him. He's got it all to do. Kurt Stenberg now leads by only 0.2 of a second because Ethan Warren is all over him. Jake Maloney has made a position while we were talking. He's up into 10th place, and he's got the bulk of the work done. He's probably got, he's eliminated that sort of that field spread pain that he would have taken early on if he was down there in 15th still. It'll be hard, though, to get those remaining positions up to where Kurt Stenberg and Ethan Warren are.
He just got gifted another position with Nigel Miney running a little wide at turn 11 there. Concedes the position to Will Devonish and Jake Maloney. So now into 9th for Jake Maloney, just behind Zach Baker, who hasn't...
Sorry, Ethan Warren looking down the inside of Kurt Stenberg and tucks back in. Sorry, as you were.
So Zach Baker hasn't made any progress from his starting position. Just ahead of him, Matt Lepoitovan and Brody Steen are in a fierce battle for 6th position. And then we have Colin Warwick, Sean Allen and Corey Preston in a tight battle for 3rd place. But while we're talking about that, the battle on the front rages on. Still less than half a second between Kurt Stenberg and Ethan Warren as they pound over the curbs in the chicane. Warren taking a much narrower line at the exit there, and he's looking potentially to dive the inside. Shows the nose. Is he going to dive through? No, he's not. Not quite close enough, but he's got the inside line here. Kurt Stenberg gives him just enough room. Is he going to duck towards the inside? No, he has to go around the outside. Kurt Stenberg covers, but this is the opportunity where you can do the switchback here. Doesn't quite get the run out of that corner that he needs, but he's in the slipstream. That gap is coming down as they head down the main straight through turn 1. It's going to be another passing opportunity as Ethan Warren ducks towards the inside. He's got the position priority and he's got the apex, and does he shaft Kurt Stenberg out wide? Not really enough, but he does have that position.
Doesn't need to. He's got the inside for the next part of the corner, next part of the racetrack. A little bit of contact there. Oh, does Kurt Stenberg feed Ethan Warren into the wall there? That was messy, but Ethan stayed ahead, and I think they both got away with that. That could have been really, really nasty.
Yeah, pretty lucky to get away with that, in fact. I think Ethan just took a little too much curb, which meant he straight-lined the exit, and Kurt just really had nowhere to go. He's got to turn in at some point, and yeah, it just sort of fed him into the wall. But it looks like they've both escaped unscathed, and it's play on as we head into the last section of the track on this 4th lap of 35 laps.
That was a great moment for Ethan Warren this time a lap ago, where he just sort of started setting Kurt Stenberg up for that pass, getting him offline and forcing him to defend, and eventually affecting that pass down at turn 2. But now he's got to try and keep Kurt behind, try and build a bit of a gap. He certainly seemed to have the pace to do that in race 1. Look at the gap they pulled on those behind him. Colin Warwick's doing a great job there at the moment in 3rd place, holding off Sean Allen, but he's 4 seconds behind Kurt and Ethan, despite the fact that they've been fighting one another.
Yeah, and it's just the absolute pace of those at the front is just much better than the ones behind. Just a quick Jake Maloney update. He's now up into 7th, ahead of Brody Steen and Zach Baker. So another position lost for Zach Baker as he's wallowing in this mid-pack after being very strong last race rather. Next target for Jake Maloney is Matt Lepoitovan, who's dropped back from the 3rd place battle, which features Corey Preston, Sean Allen, and Colin Warwick, who are very tightly matched at this stage of the race.
So lots of battles going on here. They're spreading out a little bit now, 5 seconds behind the leader, but this Colin Warwick, Sean Allen and Corey Preston battle is shaping up quite nicely indeed. Kurt Stenberg now dropping to a 2nd behind Ethan Warren. And if you compare their lap times, well, Ethan Warren's gone and set purple sectors in the 1st sector, not in the 2nd sector, but the final sector is still something that we can look out for him. Nigel Munneef has got a drive-through penalty. Has he just recently been in the pit lane?
He must have. He's in fact just come out of the pits. So I maybe picked up a bit of damage because he was running in the top 10 earlier in the race and now has dropped to the tail of the field. Just waiting for the field to go past him, actually.
It's unfortunate. So the battle on track for 3rd place is the closest on the racetrack. 3-car battle. We like to see that sort of stuff.
Matt Lepoitovan has yielded to Jake Maloney, so Jake now in 6th place. And Zach Baker has made a move on Brody Steen, so Zach Baker now up into 8th in the tail end of the top 10 battle. So, very wide from Corey Preston there. Sorry to jump in on top of you.
As you were saying that, Zach Baker was a bit wide through 6th, so it worked out quite nicely. So Corey Preston, though, you can afford to make those sorts of mistakes when you're the car behind. If you're the car in front, you can't make any of those mistakes because you lose the position. If you're behind, you can reel them back in again.
It looks like we've lost a car in the middle of that battle. Whereabouts is Matt Lepoitovan? I can't find him on the track at the moment. Yeah,
12th. He's been in the wall. He's been in the wall is that the exit of 7 and 8? Looks like it is. He's lost it on the curb and the back end's come round on him. Light contact with the wall and he loses a chunk of positions there.
and does very well to stay off the racing line so that he didn't rejoin in the middle of someone's path. So that's dropped him all the way back to 12th place behind Stephen Birchall.
Yeah, really unfortunate. He was running very strongly at the first part of this race. So we've got a new fastest lap for
there's a
Ethan
mirror.
Warren.
There's Ethan Warren's mirror, I would assume. Did he lose that on his qualifying lap, or was that an early part of the race that I'm not remembering? Anyway, he's not got both of his mirrors, actually.
I think he lost the right-hand mirror on the first lap melee, and then the left-hand mirror only very recently.
Kind of, it looks a bit strange. As much as a mirror isn't really something you think of, you don't sort of consciously take note of them when you're looking at a car, but it just sort of looks like an amputee car, doesn't it, without its mirrors? Anywho, he doesn't need them because Kurt's 4 seconds behind him.
Yeah, we shouldn't be looking in his mirrors with that sort of gap.
And also
Kurt
virtual
Stenberg,
mirrors are a thing.
What was that, sorry?
And also virtual mirrors,
Virtual
so
mirrors.
you don't break off the virtual mirror when you crash and lose a mirror in your virtual car, in your real car. Would be a thing if it was in virtual reality, but Automobilista doesn't support that in the first iteration, at least. Yes, I believe it is in the works for AMS2, if that is in our future. But of course, mod support will certainly need to be a thing for Supercars to be a championship that uses AMS2. Oh, big moment. Corey Preston nearly up on his roof. That's the second time tonight we've seen him do that. And he loses a huge chunk of time to the battle the battle in front of him between Sean Allen and Colin Warwick. We caught that just at the right moment. Let's have another look at what was a very, very scary moment for Corey Preston.
Oh, he just got way too over the curb at turn 5, which sent him too wide on the entry to turn 6, and that was all she wrote. Wow, that's a brown trouser moment if I've ever seen one.
Brown trouser moment, I like that. Sean Allen trying his best to give Colin Warwick brown trousers, but I probably can't actually see that he's there because of the camo livery. I kid. Colin Warwick is doing a commendable job now, moving to the inside to defend the line in 2, and Sean Allen, we saw how strong he was late in the race against Kurt Stenberg under brakes, and he's doing that again. He's proving to be a bit of a menace when it comes to getting the car stopped, and I mean that in a good way, of course, from Sean Allen. It means he's very good at it, and if you're not as confident on the brakes, it means you're going to be under some significant pressure to hold on to your position.
Yeah, Sean Allen probably could have planned that better, and that's one of the things around this Townsville circuit. You got to plan out your moves sort of corners in advance. If he'd gotten on the brakes a little earlier with who was that? Sorry, Colin Warwick on the inside there, he might have actually had an opportunity to do the crisscross and get on the inside for turn 3. As it stands, he hasn't been able to do that, and he's going to be on the outside again heading into the final corner. We've got a yellow flag being shown, and now he's got the crisscross available to him as they drag race down the main straight, less than half a tenth in it as we've got a car coming out of the pit lane ahead of him. And Sean Allen's on the outside here through turn 1, and he's going to be on the outside for turn 2. Now this is where he's got to be thinking about doing the crisscross, and he's trying to do it, but Colin Warwick does a very good job of keeping him out wide and on the outside of the circle. We've got a safety car.
Safety car, what's caused that? Try and see if anyone else is facing the wrong way. Turmo.
We've lost Thomas McMillan from this race, and Nigel Manif.
Yeah, so Thomas was in the pits just prior to his retirement, so I don't think that was what caused it.
We've got David Nenadic spinning at turn 10. That could be potentially the reason, and it looks like we've got Ozrob and Bratt coming into the pits.
Yep.
So it's all just happening a bit at the moment.
It's okay, well, and Nigel Manif, the other retirement, I'm not sure if you mentioned that. So Ethan Warren, race leader in the pits. Kurt Stenberg follows him, and we wait to see whether Colin Warwick, Sean Allen, pretty much everyone coming into the pits, apart from Corey Preston, who's continued around. Is he going to live to regret that? Lap 11, you'd say it's in the pit window. Very much so, because these cars can do, I wrote it down, their longest stint is 25 laps. So they're well within that, and especially with a few laps behind the safety car, that's going to be very interesting. So the 2 Zach Baker racing cars have stayed out. Zach Baker and David Nenadic is a lap down. So
Yeah,
Just discount
so it
that.
was David Nenejic that caused the safety car. He looped it out of turn 9 and got it stuck in neutral, it looks like. So he was stuck there on the inside of turn 9 for an extended period of time, and that's probably what brought out the safety car.
Well, I think what this has done is effectively put Corey Preston and Zach Baker out of contention unless there's another safety car, because they're going to have to make green flag pit stops now even if they do it now, they're going to lose track position, which is disastrous for them. So safety car strategy is a massive part of motor racing, and I think they may have missed the boat there, because the guys who were switched on, Ethan Warren, Kurt Stenberg, and RSM Latino up in 6th. I imagine that's because he hasn't pit, because he was much further down. Sean Allen's in 7th place, Colin Warwick in 8th, Jake Maloney in 9th. If he's made his pit stop, he's in a very good position.
Yeah, that sounds about right for where Jake Maloney was prior to the pits. It looks like also Matt Lepoitovan hasn't taken his pit stop either. Yes. So the top 3 drivers at the moment without pits, and it looks like most of the rest of the field
Here
has.
he comes.
Unfortunately,
Matt's come in.
Yeah, so taking your medicine early in that case.
Good idea, because then you get back the positions of anyone else who has to make green flag pit stops.
Yeah, so it looks like Corey Preston and Zach Baker have all come in as well, and a little bit of niggle between Zach Baker and Matt Lepoitovan in the pits. Almost an unsafe release, but they both managed to sneak out unscathed. And it looks like they're going to get out in 7th and 8th place. So ahead of Brody Steen, but behind Jake Maloney. So Jake Maloney now up into 6th place in the first 12 laps of this race.
So Preston is now behind Maloney as a result of that mistake of not pitting at that early opportunity. So that just goes to show how costly an error like that is. He's probably lucky he didn't lose more positions. The cars were reasonably spaced out.
Yeah, and that's of course why you take that pit stop as early as you possibly can under safety car. So missing the call the first time around, you want to take it straight away. We've got a few lapped cars in the mix behind the safety car. We've got the 2 WAR engineering cars of Oz Rob and Will Devonish in the mix. It looks like Will is the second one in the queue behind Ethan Warren. Right. And then Oz Rob is the car ahead of it. And it looks like we've lost as well Aiden Schultz from the race. He's retirement at this stage as well.
It's our 3rd retirement of the race. Aiden Schultz to join Thomas McMillan and Nigel Marneef in becoming DNFs in this race as the safety car takes us around another time. So it's given that War Race Engineering sandwich that we have for Ethan Warren is giving him a little bit of a buffer as David Nenadic coming out of the pits gets himself a drive-through penalty. There's no need to speed in the pit lane when you're under safety car conditions.
Yeah, especially considering he has gone a lap down anyway, so it's not ideal from the Zach Baker Motorsport second driver.
Now RSM Latino gives Sean Allen a bit of a buffer from Colin Warwick, who's behind him. So after having made the pass on Colin Warwick, Sean Allen... Did he make the pass on track? I'm trying to remember. So much has happened in the last 14 laps that it's very difficult to keep up. But anyway, it'll be very hard for Colin Warwick to fight back straight away with that lapped car. And then Colin will probably be concerned about Jake Maloney, who will be occupying his mirrors. And because he's right behind him in 7th place, and he doesn't have a lapped car in between himself and the championship leader there in the number 29 Trans-Tasman Racing.
RSM Latino hasn't taken his pit stop, so he's not actually a lapped car. He's just
no, he's not. That's for
in position.
That's
it. So that means that he can block, he can battle, he can do whatever the hell he wants. But I think maybe the wise thing would be to move out of the way, as we have. It looks like the safety car is still going around.
Oh, it's got a bit of pace up. It's put some gap between itself and the leading car.
And
wait to see. We'll see it in the next shot if it's come into the pit lane. And it hasn't. So it's continuing around. So we're having a nice 3 or 4 lap tour behind this safety car. This is unusual for Automobilista Supercars. But you probably don't think it is, because every time you've joined, well, apart from the Perth Super Night, there wasn't any safety cars there, but we had about 3 or 4 the last time you joined us.
Yeah, it's been interesting discovering how all Automobilista race procedures work. Of course, I'm originally come from Forza, so doing a lot of racing in Forza Motorsport leagues with some people mostly on the other side of the planet, which was a lot of fun. But it's been a great experience getting to learn something a bit more robust and something a bit more set up properly for this type of thing, doing league races over an extended period of time. And yeah, one of the quirks is this old safety car, isn't it?
Certainly is. Good chance now to have a shout out to all our viewers in the live chat. We love seeing your comments come through during the race. A few names that we're familiar with in iRacing. Brady Myers, former TTL eSports. Jared Filsell says big send. Mr. Walshy, a frequent viewer, we love to see him. Ford AU Falcon, love your work, mate. And Ian Hariono, who watching all the way from Singapore. So good to see everyone. Ethan Greg Galt, there's another name who we know who is a very, very quick peddler, and he's enjoying this amazing safety car period. I wonder if we're going to see it come in and have a bit of a sprint.
Just before we go to green, I do just want to make a mention. Matt Lepoitovin's just dropped down a few positions. Not sure why. I tried to catch it on the replay on my own screen. Didn't really catch it. Just came off the throttle and let a bunch of cars roll by. So weird one, that one.
Very weird. Automobilista can sometimes give people strange messages telling them to lose positions, because it reorders you somewhat randomly from
Zach Baker, 10-second stop-go penalty.
Yeah, we're green. So Ethan Warren retakes or puts down the War Race Engineering car. There's a huge crash there with one of the Penrite cars. What is going on there? We'll try and catch a replay. Was it Jay Borg involved in that one?
It looked like Zach Baker was one of those cars, and the other one, could have been... I'm not sure.
Yeah, Zach Baker just understeered into the wall, and Jay Borg was the unfortunate bystander who was on the inside as Zach Baker ricocheted off that wall. Mirrors going everywhere, and there's going to be heavy damage from that contact, so very, very bad luck there for Jay Borg. Zach Baker, unfortunately, the cause of that one. So Kurt Stenberg now in second place. Ethan Warren a second ahead in the lead. Meanwhile, we've got Colin Warwick having a great start up into third place, lapping Rob Christdale, Ozrob, Sean Allen in fourth place. So Sean Allen, we didn't see how he lost the position, but he's coming under pressure now from Jake Maloney.
And Corey Preston's dived into the pits, maybe by mistake there. He got well out of shape out of turn 11 as this big battle pack rolls back onto the main straight. And look at Jake Maloney going on the inside of 3 wide into the first corner. That's on the inside of Sean Allen. He's going to make the move into that turn 2. It looks like he's got the line, and Sean Allen very, very tight on the outside there. He's managed to hold position while his team car goes off in the background. Is he going to be able to brake late and hold on the outside again? No, Jake Maloney's got the position made, and that puts him up into 4th place with just as we cross onto around half distance in this race.
He's got enough time left in this race to fight for the win, potentially, Jake Maloney. Up 14 spots, and that safety car came at the perfect moment to close up those gaps. He's now only 6.5 seconds off the lead. If he can catch up to Colin Warwick and dispatch him fairly quickly, he's going to put Kurt Stenberg under some pressure, and maybe even Ethan Warren. We know that Ethan and Jake are pretty closely matched for pace.
Yeah, Colin Warwick just went a little wide there at turn 11, so that's only going to help Jake Maloney. Remember what I said at the very beginning of Kurt Stenberg, looking at silver linings, the fact that his direct championship contender was starting off the rear of the grid? Well, that didn't last long, did it?
Yes, well, we weren't factoring safety cars into that. Safety cars giveth and safety cars taketh away, and while they may well have taken away his opportunity of winning race 1, have they given him an opportunity of winning race 2?
Fingers crossed. If you're a Jake Maloney fan, there's some rumble and tumble around the 10th and 11th position as Brapp, who was sitting very pretty in 5th place just after the restart, has now lost his bonnet
as
in
he
some
did
contact.
in race 1.
Yeah, and having a
great old battle here at the moment with Turmo as they sling through the middle sector with that lapped car. I think that is Oz Rob. Oh, sorry, no, that's Will Devonish just ahead. So it's all happening throughout the field as this race progresses into the next stage.
That's right. Well, the pit stops are all shaken out, we think. So this is a straight sprint to the line. Another 13 laps to go. They're going to be mighty. Oh, here we go. The move. Jake Maloney goes down the inside of Colin Warwick. Colin Warwick had the inside and he just opened the door. And Warwick, Jake Maloney did not need a second invitation. He went straight through. And that is third place. So he's on the podium and he's got 4 seconds to Kurt Stenberg, who is 3 seconds behind Ethan Warren.
Yeah, I think that's Colin Warwick just knowing his battle and knowing his race, maybe thinking that Jake Maloney who was always going to have enough pace to eventually pass him, so just making it a little easy and focusing on his own race, with Sean Allen only about a second and a half behind. So to continue that battle again for the minor placings, probably what Colin Warwick's looking more comfortable with at this stage.
Well, that gives us an opportunity now to have a quick stock take as the order has somewhat settled down after that safety car period. So Ethan Warren is stretching out a lead over Kurt Stenberg. We've had a huge crash. What has happened? I heard a huge crash as Corey Preston got a drive-through penalty. Whether or not that's related, I am not sure. Dearie me. So I've heard it, and I can't find who it was. It's Corey Preston. It's Corey Preston because he's
now
DNF'd.
in the garage.
So he's got a drive-through penalty at the exact same time. I thought those were related, and it's because he's driven into the pit lane at an unabated speed and deliberately crashed by the looks of it. So he was pretty upset about something, it's fair to say, because he's done that on purpose. So I wonder if he had damage he was carrying from something else and was fed up with probably with the way the safety car panned out for him, and has elected to end his race. This always happens when I go through my stock take. Something interrupts it.
Yes, in the industry we call that tilting, what Corey Preston just did.
Yeah.
So unfortunate for him. Hopefully we'll see him back at a future race, hopefully in a bit better spirits.
Yes, I hope that he gets the results that his pace is capable of in future. So just looking at his... he's currently set 6 in the championship, so that will actually hurt him. He's only had 2 rounds where he didn't make it. And he's always there around about 7th or 8th are his worst results. He's had a podium in Tasmania and just sort of around that 4th, 5th, 6th bracket, which is pretty good for points. And that tonight was probably not going the way that he would have liked it to. But anyway, behind Jake Maloney, who's occupying the final spot on the podium, Colin Warwick holds down 4th, but Sean Allen is certainly catching back up to him. His race on Oz teammate in the 6th place. And Stephen Birchall now coming under pressure from Zach Baker up the inside at turn 2. And behind them, Matt Lepoidovan doing a good job recovering. He made that pit stop during the safety car. He's still in the top 10, so that's a good job. It's been an attritional race as you react to these interesting side-by-side moments.
So that Zach Baker, Stephen Birchall battle has been going on since the tail end of last lap for the two of them, and it looks like Zach Baker's finally managed to make that move and make it stick. Now Stephen Birchall is coming under pressure, as you mentioned, from Matt Lepoidovan, who's on a bit of a recovery drive. I'm not, as I mentioned, I'm not sure what happened to him during that safety car period, but he just seemed to drop back a bunch of places, but he's recovered back into the tail end of the top 10 and looking to make a move on Stephen Birchall as he dives towards the inside and makes the move stick. So well done there from Matt Lepoidovan. Stephen Birchall drops down another place as he...
Oh no! He's looped it, poor old Matt Lepoidovan. It was a great overtake, as you said, and then he just got too happy on the loud pedal, and round she went. Steve Birchall says, "Thank you very much. I'll take that back. Thank you very much indeed." And
I am just going to have a quick check on his onboard. It's one of that...
Was there contact?
Moments. Yeah.
I think there might have been. Let's go on board.
Matt Lepoidovan just got a little bit out of shape, and then he got some help from Steve Birchall. So Steve was almost just an unlucky bystander in that situation. Matt Lepoidovan was having his own accident, and then he just came in and finished the job.
Yeah, that one will be looked at though. It's not an open and shut case by any stretch of the imagination. But Stephen Birchall is not unknown to the stewards. He's actually got 40 penalty points from previous races, so he's
It's always
certainly
bad when this. Colin Warwick's gone off. Colin Warwick from 4th position has gone off at turn 11, and he's ended up in the wall. He's managed to maintain that position, but now he's directly under fire from Sean Allen, as Zach Baker sets another fastest lap, lowering his mark from a 10.6 down even further. I'm just going to wait for it to come up on timing when it comes up. But yeah, still going on between Sean Allen and Colin Warwick here as they come into turn 2.
That was bizarre. It was like his front didn't want to turn in. He didn't appear to be carrying too much excess speed into the corner, but he just sort of helplessly went into the wall, a la David Coulthard in Adelaide in 1995 when he drove into the pit lane wall.
Yes.
So anyway, he's going to be under a bit of pressure to get this thing to the end in 4th place if his understeer is as bad as that with 12 laps left in this race.
Yeah, and especially with how good Sean Allen is under brakes, he could be in a lot of trouble here. Now, as I mentioned before, we'll see if Sean Allen's got a bit better idea on how to construct the move here as he gets a dive in towards turn 11. Colin Warwick shuts the door, and they almost make contact.
Yeah, that was like one ventricle. It was half-hearted. So Sean Allen is one who we've seen is very strong under brakes today. So I'm surprised he didn't affect that pass. I think he'll have another go, though, sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, in the background, his teammate Brody Steen isn't particularly under any pressure. They're all fairly spaced out. That battle is the closest we've got here for 4th and 5th with Colin Warwick doing a good job, actually, to keep Sean Allen behind him into turn 2.
He's doing a great job of hanging Sean Allen up high and dry, because the optimum plan there, if you're the guy chasing, is to set the guy up on the inside so that way they have to take a narrow line entering that corner, which enables you to then brake harder and then get the cutback into turn 3. But Sean Allen hasn't been able to do that. I'm not sure if he's not setting up the move correctly, or if Colin Warwick is just doing a much better job of keeping him out there. He's going to have another look here into turn 11. This time he's a lot further up, and Colin Warwick keeps him up on the curve, but Sean Allen had the pace to make the move.
Oh, big moment. He's put it in the wall there. Sean Allen's going to come under the pressure around the outside. He's still got the track position. The switchback for Colin Warwick. He's going to be right up underneath him, under his rear wing, dragging all the way down to turn 1. Oh, my goodness. That was a much more committed move from Sean Allen. He made Colin Warwick give him the space, but Colin Warwick is now up the inside. The fighter becomes the fightee and vice versa. Colin Warwick is going to have the inside for the next corner if he gets the traction, but Sean Allen seems to be the one who has the drive. He's earned the corner, but Colin Warwick will try and drive up the inside. That was a closing wedge.
Wow, they weren't giving each other any space there. Real hard stuff there. Sean Allen very lucky to escape without any damage. Colin Warwick definitely had the better positioning there. It was just couldn't get the brakes, and he's going to have a quick dive into turn 7. No, you can't get a move done in there, Colin Warwick. No way.
Quick change of focus, because Kurt Stenberg now has Jake Maloney for company. That gap has come down over the last few laps, and the two TTR guys are line astern, with the championship leader in 3rd place and Kurt Stenberg in 2nd place.
Yeah, so Jake Maloney there took a wider line on entry into that final corner, looking to try and open up the exit and get the power down earlier, and it seems to be working. He's gaining on Kurt Stenberg down this main straight. Maybe not enough to affect the pass, but enough to get right under the rear wing of his teammate as they come through turn 2. Both of them are a little out of shape as they bring the throttle up, but that's not too much to worry about as they just break the first sector beam. About 0.4 the difference between the two cars at this stage as they sling through turns 5 and 6. Kurt Stenberg looks to be a little better through this section, actually. He's opened up a little bit more of a gap. But importantly, the places where you need to pass are at turn 11 at the end here. And Kurt Stenberg leaves 2 big licorice lines on the floor out of that corner, and he's going to be vulnerable here. Jake Maloney thinks better of it. Big bit wide there for Kurt Stenberg, though. He gets deep into the corner, couldn't get it pulled up, and Jake Maloney didn't need a second invitation. He got it up
underneath, inside, got the traction, and Kurt Stenberg lights the rears up out of the final corner. He's a bit annoyed with himself because he's gifted that one to Jake Maloney in second place.
Yeah, it looks like Kurt Stenberg's rear tires are going off because that's 3 or 4 sections in that little piece that we saw where he was lighting them up and not getting the traction down, including that big one out of turn 10, which probably cost him the position, maybe not at the move into turn 11, but put enough pressure on him, allowed enough pressure to come onto him to make that mistake. So Jake Maloney now in second place. He's got 13 seconds to chase down on Ethan Warren, who's having a beautiful old time out ahead of the field. Last lap, a 10.8 compared to Jake Maloney's 11.3. So a lot of time to gain back if Jake Maloney, wants to take this win.
Yeah, I'd say that's a bit too much even for Jake Maloney. There's not enough laps left. I don't want to say Ethan Warren's checked out, but he's certainly hovering around the impulse buys near the checkout. So
Brilliant.
Yeah,
well, we said the same
up
thing about same thing about Jake Maloney last race, didn't we?
We did. So Ethan Warren, can he? He had a worse race one than Jake Maloney did. They both had the race win taken away through various bits of bad luck or penalties or whatever it was. But I think Ethan Warren's keen to pick up the pack of Menties and the Coke and
head on home
and put all his stuff on the belt. So anyway, moving on. Having said that, Jake Maloney's taken about 2 seconds out of him in the time that we've been making those ridiculous analogies.
Hey, you can't blame me for that. That's all you.
That's all me. There's still a lot of time for a lot of stuff to happen. So Sean Allen is only just ahead of Colin Warwick still. Having made that pass, he's actually coming under pressure from Colin Warwick, who's coming up the inside at a place where they would have had an aeroplane crash if they'd connected. Gracious me. Colin Warwick racy tonight, making amends for the disastrous pit strategy in race 1. He's having a very strong race tonight.
Yeah, another car is taking a very narrow line out of chicane, which enables him to put the power down a lot quicker. It doesn't seem to have helped him get onto the back of Sean Allen in this tighter last section. He's using a lot of curb throughout the entire track, which, while it's unsettling the car in places, is also giving him a shorter race track to drive around. And it looks like he's taking a much narrower line again on the exit there, which is only going to do him favors as he comes up behind Sean Allen on this lap down the main straight. Still not quite close enough to make a move, but definitely close enough to put the pressure on as Sean Allen angles the car towards the apex to make sure that Colin Warwick stays behind him. Intriguing battle between the two of them.
It is very intriguing.
All race.
It's very intriguing because I noticed both of those things that you mentioned, Colin Warwick using a lot of curb and Sean Allen angling the car towards the apex turn 2. Those are both things that they did on their shootout laps. And it's very interesting that they're carrying that through into the race itself. And seemingly, even though very different driving styles, not a lot to choose between them.
Sorry, I was just wincing at the amount of curb Colin Warren took at that first part of the chicane. It bounced him out a bit too wide, so he's lost a lot of time in that sector. You can visually see it as well, a good few car lengths now. It's a bit of a wincing moment there, but yeah, you're exactly right. As the pressure comes on, we sort of revert to what we're comfortable with, and it looks like these guys have two very contrasting racing styles that they're putting on show for us today.
Word coming through from I'm a Car. Colin did his own fuel numbers for this race, so he should make it to the end. So that's I think I'm a Car's hung up the headset when it comes to race engineering for Colin Warwick. Makes you wonder why Colin didn't do his own numbers for race 1. But, I may well be selling I'm a Car short somewhat. He may well have been the one doing the numbers for Colin in the previous 7 rounds.
Well, at least if Colin Warwick makes a mistake, he'll only have himself to blame this time.
Well, that's it. I'm sure Imacar's got enough to worry about with all the service stuff and clearing penalties and all that sort of stuff that comes with that. So these two are not as close as they have been in recent times. Jake Maloney's got that gap down to 8.9 seconds, so Ethan Warren can't relax just yet. We've got someone recovering to the racetrack. Who is that? It is Brab.
We've got Yeah, Brap car just on the exit of turn 11. Closest battle in the top 10 is actually Matt Lepoytoven and Stephen Birchall for 8th and 9th. They've really closed up again after that earlier mishap. And Matt Lepoytoven, just as I say that, it's got to run out of turn 9 through turn 10, launches it over Boundary Street and takes the position very comprehensively. Woo! That is a roller coaster ride and a half. But Steve Birchall is coming back at him, gets a bit out of shape, and I think that's the position made now for Matt Lepoytoven.
Yeah, I think Steve just fancied his chances getting back up the inside, but his ambitions were not equaled by the level of grip on the racetrack there, although he's very much underneath the rear wing of Matt Lepoytoven coming down this start-finish straight at 2. If he's got the confidence under braking, he's going to dive down the inside, and he has done just that, makes the move, and if he can get it stopped, it will have been one of the best overtakes we've seen on the broadcast so far. And he seems to have the line as they come into this side by side. Great respect between the two, but don't drive him into the wall. Matt Lepoytoven gets the position back. Steve Birchall, oh, what a great sequence of corners there. That wasn't so good from Steve Birchall. Gets the car all sorts of unsettled on the curb.
And both of them run wide through turn 6.
Yeah, but Matt Lepoytoven has lost much less time than Steve Birchall there. So Steve Birchall still 4 positions up from where he started, so that is a strong running from him. And he's done well to fight back on Matt Lepoytoven there. Both of them, I believe, their best results of the championship. Steve Birchall, just looking at his numbers so far, that'll be his first top 10. His best coming in Winton with the 11th place.
Oh, fantastic! It's and what a baptism of fire to do it as well. Battling throughout the second half of the race after that safety car period in the top 10. I think that's definitely the way you want to earn a result like that.
Absolutely, and Matt Lepoytoven joined us for the first time in the previous round and finished 14th in race 2, if I'm not mistaken. So top 10 finish tonight if he can keep it on the black stuff, and 8th place will be a great result for him.
Brilliant. That gap at the front now is just over 10 seconds, so Ethan Warren has responded, but he's missing his front bumper. What's going on there?
Not going to have any downforce on the front. I wonder how recently that's happened. Let's check his lap times. 1 minute 11.5, the last lap that he set. So he's still doing decent enough times, and unless he's done that in the last... Well, his first sector time is fine. So I think he can still continue lapping at a reasonable pace to not lose to the lead. Like, honestly, only 2.5 laps. If you can't do that with a sector time set.
Don't say that.
Don't say that. I mean, what I'm saying, I'm just trying. I'm thinking out loud. Let's just put it that way. I'm doing an Ed Sheeran. So he's 17.1 through the middle sector. We wait to see Jake Maloney's middle sector. It takes a while to come. 16.6. Well, that was a big gain. Jake Maloney took out half a second in that middle sector. Or maybe it's not over yet. 2 laps to go. Ethan Warren holds down a pretty comfortable lead. But what he doesn't hold down is the front of his car because the splitter's missing.
Yeah, a bit weird that. I tried to scroll back through the replay and didn't see any reason for that to pop off. So a bit of a wild one there. Hopefully we'll find out after the race.
I think that car is damaged. He wouldn't be driving it that close to the limit if it wasn't, I would have thought.
Maybe not.
Well,
I don't know.
I say that. I do know the Warren brothers, not personally, but I do know the way they drive. They like to drive close to the limit. But I would have thought if you had a 10-second advantage with a lap and a half to go, you wouldn't be, playing chicken with the walls at every opportunity.
Maybe that's the rhythm that you're in. Sometimes you can get stuck. Sometimes if you're in a rhythm where you're pushing and you're creating lap time that's going well, if you try to back that off and be a bit more conservative, that's when you make a mistake. It's because when you're not thinking about it anymore, you're not in that zone, that's when the mistakes happen. And he's struggling with some oversteer as he comes onto the last lap.
That's what I'm talking about. But, I mean, you make a good point, and that's why he's leading the Townsville 200 by 7.7 seconds, and I'm sitting here talking about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Would love to be out there winning, but Yeah, he's got the most part of the main straight to his benefit as he starts this last lap. A dominant performance from Ethan Warren, led almost from start to finish. There was a brief period of time where Kurt Stenberg had the lead over him, but that was quickly erased, and he has been the class of the field ever since.
He most certainly has, and it won't be a pretty car that finishes the race, but it will be a fast car that finishes the race. What is his last lap time? He's in the 1 minute 12, so he's dropping about half a second a lap to Jake Maloney, and considering how that car doesn't seem to be handling its best, I'd say that's a pretty good effort from Ethan Warren. Jake Maloney came from the back of the grid, take nothing away from him.
That would be my drive for the day, actually. Jake Maloney, from, as you mentioned, the back of the grid up into second place. Did get a little bit of help, but in the end, you need to be there to execute it, and he certainly has.
This is more than just theatrics, I would have thought, from Ethan Warren. He's gone wide at the final corner, but it's...
That's theatrics.
That is theatrics. Well, he knows he can do it now, to be young again. Ethan Warren wins the race. Great job from him. His third win in 4 from Ethan Warren. Jake Maloney putting together another championship drive from the back of the grid to finish second, and Kurt Stenberg, somewhat lonely third place now, but a solid night for him, a first and third. Well, solid. He'll be ecstatic with that win, I would have thought. And behind him, Sean Allen, in what was a fantastic battle over fourth, takes the chocolates over Colin Warwick. And behind him, Zach Baker is going to come across the line with 6th place. He had a decent battle with Brody Steen, but ended up a few seconds ahead of him. We saw the Wall Race Engineering car in the background coming home a lap down. It was Will Devonish, who I believe will get 11th place, with Stephen Birchall DNFing in the final stages by the looks of it. Didn't see exactly what caused that. Matt Lepoiderman is going to come home in 8th place, and we detailed what a great result that is for him. Jay Borg in 9th, that's a good result for him as well. A lot of guys here coming through in an attritional race to get very valuable points. Termo, the wild card, in the top 10. Fantastic result from him. And that is the balance of the cars that were on the lead lap.
Just gone back and had a look at Stephen Birchall's incident on the last lap. He actually got tagged by one of the Stealth Penrite racing cars. I think it was Jay Borg, into turn 3 on the last lap of the race. So that's definitely going to be one for the stewards. Pretty reminiscent of what we saw happen between Cam Waters and Nick Percat in that second race, if you're watching on the weekend. But yeah, on the last lap, having a top 10 finish taken away from you like that, he's going to be having some words, I think.
Yeah, not good. It was a good position for Birchall up until that, so what a heartbreaking way for that to come to an end. We know he's got it in him. These street circuits give us weird results, don't they? It was an attritional race. 5 DNFs in the end. Stephen Birchall, Corey Preston, Aidan Schultz, Thomas McMillan, and Nigel Munneef. And we've just seen, well, the race winner had a bit of his car. I'm trying to think, what's the word?
Front bumper.
Yeah, front bumper. No, I was thinking, well, it was attritional in terms of the parts of his car, but I can't think of the the verb. What's to attrish? Well, I'll let that one go through to the keeper, shall we? Let's have a quick break on the other side. We'll collect ourselves. We'll come back. We'll have a chat to the race winners, the podium getters, and then we'll wrap it all up. We'll see you soon. Don't go anywhere.
Our live coverage of the Automobilista Supercars Championship will be back shortly. For more information about the Automobilista Supercars Championship, including race results and official championship points, don't forget to visit the Automobilista Supercars Facebook and Instagram pages for all the latest news and results. To enhance your watching experience, you can follow all of the live timing for each race at rsmclanau.liveraces.com.
Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex. In race 1, a poor start from championship leader Jake Maloney saw him drop to 4th from the front row, while pole sitter Ethan Warren got the ideal start to get the whole shot into turn 1. Jake would fight back quickly though, taking Thomas McMillan on the second lap, and caught up to second place man Kurt Stenberg by the halfway point in the race. Kurt would not give up without a fight, going side by side for almost a whole lap.
The arm wrestle ended with Maloney eventually the victor, as Kurt struggled to get the power down out of turn 1.
Nearly spun around. How did Kurt hold on to that?
Meanwhile, in 4th place, Colin Warwick was the cork in the bottle, having forgotten to put new tyres on after qualifying. He wasn't the only one, as Thomas McMillan crashed in the latter stages of the race, dealing with a similar issue. The battle behind Colin Warwick ended in tears for Brody Steen and Corey Preston at turn 1. Zach Baker gained 2 positions out of the incident, and got another a lap later with Colin Warwick going wide at turn 1. Ethan Warren avoided all of the carnage to win the race by 2 seconds over Jake Maloney and Kurt Stenberg. The sensation of the shootout was the anticlimactic finish when Jake Maloney dropped out of the server at the crucial moment, allowing Ethan Warren to take pole position. Ethan Warren had another good start for race 2, with Thomas McMillan slotting in behind him in 2nd and Kurt Stenberg 3rd, as Jake Maloney made up 5 spots in the opening lap and a half. The subject of controversy for the opening stanza of the race was the lap 4 incident involving Zach Baker, Sean Allen, Brody Steen and Will Devonish. By lap 6, championship leader Jake Maloney had caught his rival at the top of the points, Kurt Stenberg, and a brilliant repeat of their arm wrestle from race 1 was to follow. By the time the pit stop started, Maloney had caught and passed Thomas McMillan, but not without McMillan putting up one hell of a fight. Soon McMillan would come under pressure from Kurt Stenberg. After getting past McMillan, Stenberg was the first of the two to pit, and managed to hold on to the position just as McMillan came in on the next lap.
Kurt Stenberg manages to hold on to that position.
What followed was one of the best battles we've seen in Automobilista Supercars over the final spot on the podium. The battle finally went in favour of Kurt Stenberg when Thomas looped it in the hairpin.
Of course, outbreaks himself. Thomas McMillan gets the switch back, loses the rear end, and he's gone all the way across the infield.
Once again, Ethan Warren was untouchable out front, taking victory by 5 seconds over Jake Maloney to claim the Darwin Triple Crown. Kurt Stenberg had a quiet end to the race after the fireworks with McMillan to complete his podium double for the night.
Welcome back, everyone, to Townsville. We've just had the Townsville 200 and 2 different winners, 2 very different races. Top 10 shootout that kept us on the edge of our seats to the end. And, well, Michael, what did you make of it?
It was great fun. I love coming and commentating these races. They always put on a show. We got some questions for the organisers about the end of that first race, which we'll pitch to them a bit later on. But that second race was after we had that safety car period, the race just settled into this very beautiful rhythm with a lot of battling throughout the field, and Ethan Warren was just able to drive away and take a well-deserved victory. But man of the match for me has to go to Jake Maloney after sitting out qualifying or choosing not to participate in qualifying or getting parked during qualifying to come from the back of the grid and gain 16 spots to reach second place. What a drive. And I think best drive of the race.
Absolutely. That is hard to disagree with. Unfortunately, we don't have Jake Maloney or Ethan Warren to talk to in the post-race interviews at the moment, and that's a shame because we've got certainly some questions about their particular races, certainly with Ethan Warren's damage at the end of that race. But we do have our race 1 winner, Kurt Stenberg, and race 2 second place man, Kurt Stenberg, to have a chat to, as well as some of the other... beg your pardon, Ethan Warren. Yeah, that's right. So Ethan Warren was so far ahead. I was thinking of, thinking he was in a completely different race. So I promoted you a position there unintentionally. But yes, third place for Kurt Stenberg in that second race. A solid night for you, but that race 1 had us all a bit confused at the end.
Yeah, it definitely had me confused. I was. I was spewing when I saw the safety car come out with a lap to go because I knew what was going to happen. As I'd already, I was aware that was a potential thing that could happen, but I was hoping that it had been fixed, but I had it in the back of my mind that it hadn't been fixed. So, yeah, oversight on that organisers for that one. It definitely made it interesting.
Well, it kind of gave you a bit of a free kick there, getting the position due to Jake Maloney having to pit for fuel. It looked like because of those extra laps. Did you guys have a conversation about that after the race, or was that just a bit?
Oh, we're just losing the end of that question there from you. I'm not sure if Kurt heard what you said there. Do you want to just repeat that, Flood?
So I think my internet's having a bit of a cry. I said that it seemed like that race sort of fell into your lap because of the safety car. Did you have a conversation with your new teammate after that about the end of the race, or was it just a bit of, oh, well, play on?
I haven't had a proper I've had a brief text conversation with him. I'm not sure why he pitted. I'm going to assume fuel. We enjoyed the battle at the end there, but I effectively got handed the race win there.
Yeah, though those last lap sprints after the safety car certainly can be a bit of a melee. But the last one that I can remember that you were involved with was in the Automobilista Supercars. Automobilista Australia Supercars Championship last year at Pukekohe, where there was a last lap dash that was a bit of a fecal storm. Is that something? Is those sorts of things tend to go in your favour, Kurt?
Yeah, they do. That one at Pukekohe was interesting because I just drove away from all the crashes. But this one, I actually had someone coming back at me, and I had to defend him because my tyre condition wasn't looking very good, and I assume he would have grabbed tyres when he stopped. So, I had to defend that one pretty hard, but happy to get the win if it stays the way that it is.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations nonetheless. Whatever happens on two great drives, Kurt Stenberg.
Thanks, guys.
Let's turn our attention to Sean Allen, who was the third place man in race 1, and a good battle with Colin Warwick, among others, in the race 2 to get 4th place. It was a pretty good night for you in terms of whenever you battled, it always seemed like you could fight back. You were very strong under brakes, it looked like.
Yeah, those battles were brilliant, to be honest. I couldn't have wanted any better. I definitely didn't have the pace of the front guys. Honestly, 4th was my goal, top 5 at least, because even Kurt was too fast. So race 1 I got lucky, but the battles in race 2, I don't know. I was just able to hang it around the outside and probably be a bit more aggressive than they were hoping. I'm not that much of a pushover, so they couldn't get easily past.
You're certainly not a pushover. Every time it looked like someone had the inside and they were going to be able to make the pass on you, you did seem to have a much more confident entry into the corner, and as you said, you were able to drive around the outside a lot. Confidence,
one way of putting it, for sure. It's just, if they're going to get it, they're going to have to work for it. I'm not going to just... If they're 100% down the inside of me, you got to back out, obviously, but I'm going to try my hardest to keep that spot, and if it means going side by side for a full lap, then so be it. Well, I think I did that with Kurt at some point as well. Certainly very, very entertaining to watch, so congratulations on 3rd and 4th. You must be happy with that if your goal was 4th for the night. Yeah, I'm ecstatic. Honestly, top 5's where I'm pretty well at in the season at the moment. So anytime I can finish within the top 5, I'm happy. Fantastic. Well, Flood, Michael, that was round 15.
Round 7.
Round 7 was race 15 and 14, if I'm not mistaken, of the championship. That puts us past the halfway mark, and a very, very interesting run home to the end of this championship in prospect. What did you make of tonight?
Yeah, overall, the championship picture doesn't get that much clearer between Kurt Stenberg and Jake Maloney, with 1st and 3rd being counted by 2 second places. So that's still well up in the air. It was great fun to commentate. Next round of the championship will be at Queensland, which kind of rounds out the northern end of the series. The winter escape, I guess you could call it. And then after that, we head, I think, to the Bend and then the Enduros. So a bit of an unknown coming up after we get through Ipswich. It would be a very interesting tail end to the series, I think.
That's right. We've had a lot of our championship contenders say that you can't really count your chickens until the endurance part of the championship, and that's so true. But still, until then, we've got 3 super sprints on the way. As you mentioned, the Ipswich Super Sprint coming up next round on the 30th of July, following the real-life event. That'll be round 9, followed by the Bend in Auckland before we go to the Enduros. So thank you again to all of our drivers for taking the time to chat to us. Thank you, Michael Zalavari, for filling in at such short notice in commentary tonight. That's
no
all.
problems. Love to do it.
And we appreciate it very much. We'll see you in 3 weeks' time for the Ipswich Super Sprint. Looking up Automobilista. If you look up Automobilista Supercars on Facebook and Instagram, you'll get notified of all of those details ahead of time. And if you can't wait that long, don't forget to check out the Apex Rear Wing DRM Championship on Wednesday night. So that one entering its 4th round tomorrow night at Barbagallo Raceway. And at the current moment, we've got a tie at the top of that championship between Goofball Antics and Sam Smith. So that chase to the end of the title is set to be an absolute cracker. I've been Stez.
I've been Flatman. Or Michael.
We didn't rehearse this. Bye for now. Thanks very much indeed for watching.